Chapter 13:18 See Coming. Chapter 13:18 See Coming. The green lotus true body shuddered. In Su Zimo's consciousness, a dark green mist descended and devoured towards his black-haired essence spirit with an extremely evil aura. At that moment, the black-haired essence spirit sat on the creation lotus platform. Sensing danger, it rose and roared into the skies with a boiling consciousness. 54 green lotus seeds turned into rays of light that spewed out, and rapidly formed a green sword in front of the black-haired essence spirit. Slay! The black-haired essence spirit shouted. The green lotus sword slashed viciously at the incoming dark green fog. The dark green fog was sliced into two instantly, and it was clear that the evil aura was diminished significantly by the green lotus sword. However, the mist that was sliced into two continued floating and did not show any signs of stopping. It was still engulfing towards the black-haired essence spirit. Psst! Su Zimo was alarmed. Ever since he attained greater mastery of the green lotus sword, it could be considered as a supreme killing technique that targeted the essence spirit. It had always been successful. To think that it could not destroy the life-severing curse. It was not because the green lotus sword was not strong enough. At the end of the day, the difference between the two of them was a major cultivation realm. Furthermore, the mantra that Wuxia had to sacrifice his life and self-destruct his essence spirit for was not something that could be defended against so easily. Slay! 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 The black-haired essence spirit controlled the green lotus sword and slashed down consecutively, wanting to block the path of the dark green fog. Poof! 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 The sharpness of the sword sliced the mist into pieces, and its colors dimmed significantly. However, it did not manage to suppress the evil power of the mist completely. Eventually, the green mist shrouded the black-haired essence spirit. Su Zimo grunted and felt as though his essence spirit was stuck by something such that he could not even release his spirit consciousness. Although the green lotus sword did not manage to neutralize the life-severing curse completely, it managed to defend against most of the power. Otherwise, the black-haired essence spirit would die within a few breaths upon contact with the dark green fog. Of course, even Su Zimo did not know what would happen if the power of the life-severing curse enveloped the black-haired essence spirit. What he was truly worried about was his dragon true body. Unlike the green lotus true body, apart from the essence spirit secret skill, the reverse scale, the dragon true body did not have a killing weapon like the green lotus sword. For the dragon true body, he relied mostly on his physical body and blood chi for his battles, rarely making use of dermic weapons. The life-severing curse was fatal for the dragon true body. There was no way he could defend against the power of the life-severing curse with just the dragon scales on his scarlet-haired essence spirit. At the same time, a few mighty figures of the witch race who were still alive attacked and released essence spirit secret skills at the dragon true body. Spirit-slaying curse! The spirit-slaying curse was one of the essence spirit secret skills of the witch race. Although it was not as powerful as the life-severing curse, it was equally impossible to defend against. It descended directly into the consciousness of a cultivator and killed their essence spirit. The spirit-slaying curse and life-severing curse descended at the same time. 3 fist-sized balls of light hovered in the consciousness of the dragon true body and surrounded it. Each ball of light emitted an extremely terrifying aura, and it was unknown what was within. Beneath the balls of light was an ocean that was dark, cold, and deep. The desolate ocean in the vast wilderness was formed by the massive spirit consciousness of the dragon true body. The dark green fog formed by the life-severing curse descended into his consciousness and fused into the desolate ocean instantly, dyeing the black ocean a sinister green. At the same time, the spirit-slaying curse descended and formed a spirit-slaying cyclone that swept through the surface of the ocean, creating raging tides. The two curses created a torrential green wave that engulfed the scarlet-haired essence spirit with a terrifying might, as though they wanted to devour it completely. All of a sudden, in the depths of the desolate ocean, a massive living being awakened and slowly floated to the surface. The first thing that appeared on the surface of the sea was an incomparably tough and massive turtle shell that resembled the firmaments. It was filled with thick cracks that intertwined wildly without any pattern, as though they possessed the secrets of heaven and earth. Immediately after, a pair of divine eyes opened and emitted a chilling gaze. The torrential waves of the desolate ocean calmed down instantly. Sea calming turtle. In the desolate ocean of the upper world, the spirit turtle hid in the depths of the desolate ocean most of the time, and would rarely appear. However, once it appeared, even the overlord of the desolate ocean dragon king, would not be able to cause any waves. The sea-calming turtle looked at the green ocean beneath it with a hint of rage in its eyes. Suddenly, it reared its head and howled. Swoosh! A massive spirit consciousness shockwave rippled through the entire ocean. The spirit-slaying cyclones dissipated instantly, and even the green ocean surface returned to normal, turning dark and deep once more. The power of the life-severing curse and spirit-slaying curse was suppressed by the sea-calming turtle completely before they could even touch a single strand of hair on the scarlet-haired essence spirit's head. The expressions of the mighty figures of the witch race changed. Not only did the sea-calming turtle suppress their spirit-slaying curse, it even released a terrifying spirit consciousness shockwave that counterattacked. A few mighty figures of the witch race suffered a backlash from their essence spirits, and spat out blood one after another. They fell from midair with dispirited expressions. Although the mighty figures of the witch race survived, it would be difficult for them to advance their cultivation given the severe injuries on their essence spirits, and they would most likely not have many years to live either. The entire process seemed very slow upon narration, but in fact, it occurred in the split of a moment. Wu Xie's eyes widened in disbelief. What he had initially expected did not happen. The green lotus true body did not die. Even the dragon true body was not dead. The expression of the green lotus true body dimmed significantly. Even if it was not dead, it was cursed by him and was definitely not in a good state. However, why was there nothing unusual about the dragon true body? All those spirit-slaying curses and the life-severing curse that he released at the cost of his life vanished just like that. How is that possible? That was Wu Xie's final thought in this world. The next moment, his remaining spirit consciousness dissipated as well, leaving only a corpse that fell from midair and died. Right then, something weird happened. The expression of the dragon true body changed as he leaped. Although he managed to avoid fatal damage, he was still a step too slow and was pierced from the back by the curved saber of a mighty figure of the Rakshasa race. A bloody blade protruded from his chest, dripping with fresh blood. Although Wu Xie's life-severing curse and the few spirit-slaying curses could not kill the dragon true body directly, his spirit perception was affected the moment his essence spirit fought. That was the reason why he was closed in by a mighty figure of the Rakshasa race. The slash pierced the dragon true body, and his blood chi drained rapidly. The dragon true body was enraged and threw the bronze square tripod in reverse towards the mighty figure of the Rakshasa race. Hee! The mighty figure of the Rakshasa race had long withdrawn his curved saber and flapped his wings to avoid Su Zimo's counterattack. I can't stay here anymore. The thought crossed the mind of the dragon true body as he clutched his chest. Now that Wu Xie was already dead, he had to leave as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the remaining experts of the primordial 6 races had already closed in and severed his connection with the green lotus true body completely. Furthermore, some of the primordial races charged towards the green lotus true body. Chapter 1319 Divine Phoenix. Chapter 1319 Divine Phoenix. Desolate Marshal, let's see where you can escape to. The Golden Crow Third Prince said coldly. There's no way you can survive today even if you flee into the heavens or burrow into hell. Your dragon clone will die here as well. At that moment, the experts of the primordial 6 races could already tell that the scarlet-haired being was Su Zimo's clone. The more that was the case, the more they could not let Su Zimo leave. It was not only because too many people from the primordial 6 races had died today, and the losses were immense. More than that, in the hearts of the primordial races, this Tao Lord Desolate Marshal was even more terrifying than the primordial taboo. Kill! The Golden Crow Third Prince reared his head and roared. His body burned with the golden sun god fire as he reached out with his third claw towards the head of the dragon true body. The Golden Crow race was also known as the 3D Golden Crow. Among the 3 legs beneath the abdomen, the third leg was the strongest and could tear through all beasts. Furthermore, the sun god fire burning on the third leg was also the purest with the highest temperature, and the essence of the sun god fire. The dragon true body took a deep breath and let out a deep growl with a cold gaze. Suddenly, he reached out with his right hand and grabbed the Golden Crow third prince's third leg. "You must have a death wish!" The Golden Crow third prince had a cold expression and said frostily. He believed that even if the dragon true body used his dragon claws, he would not be able to withstand the killing power and flames of his third leg. Right now, the palm extended by the dragon true body looked fair and tender, identical to a human's palm. It was extremely weak and posed no threat at all. Strange, why is the palm of this dragon clone like this? The thought flashed through the mind of the Golden Crow third prince, but he did not think too much about it. In fact, the other experts of the primordial races did not know either why the dragon true body would use such a weak palm to defend against the Golden Crow third prince's third leg. That was no different from striking a stone with an egg. However, some cultivators standing far away guessed the truth. "I've got it!" a cultivator said in a low voice. "The reason why the right hand of the dragon race clone looks like this is because his right palm is the divine phoenix bone. Ah, I almost forgot about that utmost treasure. Back then, Chaos Essence Sex half-martial Ancestor attacked and Desolate Martial was severely injured with his body crippled. Everyone thought that the divine phoenix bone was lost. Now, it seems like there's a high chance that the divine phoenix bone is in this dragon clone's body." "You mean to say that Desolate Martial's clone can already use the power of the divine phoenix bone?" Just as the cultivators were discussing, a change happened on the battlefield. Just as the palm of the dragon true body was about to make contact with the Golden Crow third prince's third leg, a loud phoenix cry sounded in the void. Screech! The phoenix cry carried an endless might that penetrated metal and rocks. It was so loud that every cultivator could hear it clearly. The cultivators shuddered in fear. The human cultivators had a deep fear towards the roars and cries of dragons and phoenixes. Even the experts of the primordial 6 races felt their hearts skip a beat. Immediately after, a power that could incinerate all living beings spread out with a scorching heatwave that was suffocating. Su Zimo's right hand had vanished completely, and in its place was a gigantic, menacing claw. It was scarlet and burned almost transparent with a phenomenal divine flame. In that instant, the entire world shook and the weather changed. The divine flames danced, and even the voids became distorted, ripped apart by the burns. The claw burning with divine flames seemed like it originated from a true godly being, and could incinerate the entire world into ashes. The divine phoenix's claw. Prior to this, Su Zimo managed to avoid several calamities with the divine phoenix bone. However, he could not truly activate the power of the divine phoenix bone. Ever since his dragon true body entered the Dharma characteristic realm, he could use the power of the divine phoenix bone to conjure the true divine phoenix's claw. Although the third leg of the Golden Crow third prince was extremely sharp, it was way too inferior compared to the divine phoenix's claw. The undying divine phoenix was a god of the upper world and was above the Golden Crow race in terms of status and bloodline. Even the flames on the Golden Crow's third leg could not compare to the divine flames on the divine phoenix's claw. The Golden Crow race merely controlled the sun god fire. However, the undying divine phoenix controlled the flames of the 10,000 races. If the flames on the Golden Crow's third leg were considered as fire candles, the divine flames on the divine phoenix's claw were considered as a blazing sun. "What is that?" The Golden Crow third prince's eyes were widened in shock. He actually felt immense fear from that claw that was burning with divine flames. Even the sun god fire on his third leg was suppressed instantly, as though it did not dare to fight against the blazing divine flames. "Hurry, retreat!" The Golden Crow third prince shrieked and flapped his wings, escaping rapidly behind. Unfortunately, Both he and his dragon true body attacked with their full strength earlier on. By the time he reacted, the divine phoenix's claw had already collided with his third leg. Buzz! Buzz! The golden sun god fire and scarlet divine phoenix flames collided and corroded one another, letting out strange sounds. In the blink of an eye, the sun god fire was completely devoured by the divine phoenix flames. The power of a god was not to be challenged. "Come on down!" The dragon true body hollered and retracted the divine phoenix's claw. Its sharp claws pierced the flesh of the third leg and yanked down viciously. The golden crow's third leg was grabbed by the divine phoenix's claw and almost crushed. The golden crow third prince knew very well that he would definitely die if he was dragged down by the dragon true body. He was also a ruthless character. In a flash, the golden crow third prince made a decision and fled outside with all his might, flapping his wings. Shing! A blood mist spewed and filled the void with a scorching heat. His blood was burning with flames. That was the blood of the golden crow race. The divine phoenix's claw had actually ripped off the third leg of the golden crow third prince. Ah! The golden crow third prince had a ghastly pale expression as he let out a tragic cry. Turning into a golden streak of light, he fled far into the distance without even turning back. For humans, at the conjoined body realm, their severed arms could regrow in the blink of an eye. However, for the golden crow race, the third leg was the strongest leg they had cultivated their bloodline. Once it was broken, it would be difficult for them to recover. It could only be reborn after a long period of nourishment. It was the same for the Heavenly Eye race's Heavenly Eye. Once the Heavenly Eye was blinded, it would be extremely difficult to repair. The Golden Crow Third Prince had come from afar from the East Sea and had not expected to suffer such a serious injury on Tianhuang mainland. He no longer wanted to bother about the primordial taboo or Dao Lord Desolate Marshal. Right now, he only wanted to escape from Tianhuang mainland and return to the East Sea. The dragon true body ignored the Golden Crow Third Prince who was escaping and raised his divine phoenix's claw to grab the experts of the primordial races ahead. Divine flames surged and engulfed the primordial 6 races. Chapter 1320 Attack of a Half-Martial Ancestor. Chapter 1320 Attack of a Half-Martial Ancestor. Some experts of the primordial races could not dodge in time, and were grabbed by the divine phoenix's claw, either torn into 2 or burned to ashes by the divine flames. Among them, a mighty figure of the blood vine race was burned to ashes by the terrifying divine flames on the divine phoenix's claw. The blood vine race was plants to begin with, and fire was the most lethal to them. Although they were one of the primordial 9 races and ordinary flames could not hurt them, the flames they were burning right now were the flames of the divine phoenix. Even the sun god fire was suppressed by the divine phoenix's flames. This was a complete counter in terms of power. The divine phoenix's claw led the way and divine flames surged. The primordial 6 races dodged and did not dare to take the attack head-on. In the blink of an eye, the dragon true body had already returned to the side of the green lotus true body. He waved his divine phoenix's claw and pushed back a few primordial races that were surrounding the green lotus true body. The dragon true body was exhausted as well as blood gushed out from the wound on his chest and spilled onto the ground. Su Zimo's 2 true bodies gathered and were prepared to leap into the pitch-black dermic power vortex to escape far away. The black-haired essence spirit was tainted by the life-severing curse, and the face of the green lotus true body was a little withered and yellow, looking rather wretched. He could not linger here. At that moment, Ethereal Peak, 100 Refinement Sect and other sects related to Su Zimo had already left. As for Yen Baichen, who was chasing after heavenly secrets, he had already vanished from Su Zimo's vision. Su Zimo did not know where he was and couldn't care less. He could only take Night's spirit away first. "We can't let them escape!" The remaining experts of the primordial races hollered and attacked one after another. In order to kill Night's spirit, the primordial 6 races sent close to 1,000 experts, and the weakest were at the Dharma characteristic realm. It was acceptable for them to lose more than 100 people in the process of chasing after Night's spirit. But now, there were only slightly more than 100 experts left among the primordial 6 races. This was a huge loss that had never happened since the ancient war. Given the foundation of the primordial 6 races, it was nothing much for those experts to die. However, apart from the ancient emperors, the experts of the primordial 6 races had never encountered such a huge setback. The reason why the primordial races chose to leave the Forbidden Grounds in this generation was because they could sense the decline of the human race's fortune. Their chance to reign over Tianhuang mainland once more had arrived. However, they did not expect to suffer such a blow the moment they appeared. They were almost completely annihilated. They could not accept this outcome. They had to kill Dao Lord Desolate Marshal and the primordial taboo. Hoo-hoo-hoo! The remaining Heavenly Eye race beings opened their heavenly eyes and channeled the power of their heavenly eyes to their limits. A series of dark lights tore through the air and flew towards the Dragon True Body, Green Lotus True Body and Night Spirit. The remaining experts of the God, Blood Vine, Witch, Golden Crow and Rakshasa races attacked one after another as well and exerted their full strength towards the Dermic Power Vortex. Although the Dragon True Body could move and dodge, the Dermic Power Vortex could not. As long as they destroyed the Dermic Power Vortex and the teleportation formation, Dao Lord Desolate Marshal's group of 3 won't be able to escape. Boom! Right then, a loud bang sounded from the firmaments as a gigantic crack opened. Immediately after, a figure appeared faintly within. Although he was small, he exuded a terrifying might. His black hair danced and his body shone brightly, causing the entire world to tremble. That power had already surpassed the conjoined body realm completely. All the cultivators looked up at the figure in the firmaments with shocked expressions. Their eyes were filled with endless shock and they held their breaths in concentration. Ancestor realm. That power definitely belonged to the Ancestor realm. Even the experts of the primordial 6 races frowned slightly. A half-martial ancestor of the human race? A mighty figure of the god race frowned. Could this half-martial ancestor be here to save Desolate Marshal? From the dermic robe and aura of that half-martial ancestor, he should be from Chaos Essence sect. However, Chaos Essence sect seems to have an extremely deep feud with Desolate Marshal. Right then, the figure in midair spoke slowly. Desolate Marshal, you destroyed the bloodline of the D clan. I've allowed you to live for too long. It's time for you to pay with blood today. Every single word from the half-martial ancestor exuded a powerful might that caused the void to tremble. Ah, it's the D clan's half-martial ancestor. I know. This half-martial ancestor of the D clan was the one who attacked in the Dao Inheritance ground. If not for the Ancestor realm expert of Dragon Burial Valley that backed him, Desolate Marshal would have died a long time ago. Previously, this half-martial ancestor of the D clan did not make a personal appearance in the Dao Inheritance ground and merely attacked from afar. His true body actually descended today. Seems like Desolate Marshal is destined to face such a calamity. He won't be able to survive today. D-Fan. Su Zimo's expression darkened. Boom! D-Fan extended his palm and pushed in Su Zimo's direction through the void. The Great Chaos Essence Palm. When released with the power of a half-martial ancestor, how powerful was the Great Chaos Essence Palm? Thin tears appeared in the entire space. Even the space could not withstand it. At the same time, the attacks of the experts of the primordial races descended and engulfed Su Zimo's 2 true bodies and Night Spirit instantly. Right now, the only one who could fight was the Dragon True Body. He must not retreat. The moment he retreated, the teleportation formation behind him would be destroyed and his escape path would be completely severed. However, against the attacks of so many primordial races and the power of a half-martial ancestor, the Divine Phoenix's claw could not defend against them at all. There was only a single possibility for him to defend against this attack. The Dragon True Body waved his hands and drew a semicircle on both sides of his body. Finally, it gathered in front of his chest and his fingers shifted, forming hand seals that swiped across his chest. A divine light burst forth from his glabella and entered his hands. After doing that, the expression of his Dragon True Body withered instantly, and his essence spirit throbbed in pain. His essence spirit was already pushed to its limits. Condense! The dragon true body hollered. Buzz! A divine power that shook the world descended. In front of the dragon true body, a gigantic stone shield appeared with a wave of his hands. It was rough and ancient with curved patterns etched on it in a mysterious manner. The stone shield resembled an ancient turtle shell. What is this? Another innate divine power? If I'm not wrong, Desolate Marshall's dragon clone has already released 2 innate divine powers. This should be the third, right? Even the primordial 6 races present were shocked, let alone the cultivators in the distance. That divine power was one of the 4 divine powers recorded in the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, the spirit turtle shield. Back in the Dragon Bone Valley, the dragon true body released it once in a fight against Long Tsung. However, at that time, he had just awakened this innate divine power and had yet to comprehend it completely. The complicated and mysterious patterns on the spirit turtle shield merely flickered slightly. Even so, the spirit turtle shield blocked Long Tsung's 5th claw. But now, the patterns on the spirit turtle shield had lit up completely. His dragon true body had already cultivated that innate divine power to the perfected stage. In truth, the reason why this innate divine power could be cultivated to the perfected stage in such a short period of time was not only because the dragon true body was extremely talented and cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness all year round. More than that, it was because when Su Zimo entered the Golden Core realm, he condensed the black tortoise phenomenon, and there were also patterns on the black tortoise's back. By comparing the two, the dragon true body was able to cultivate this innate divine power to the perfected stage at the fastest speed. Chapter 1321 Escape. Chapter 1321 Escape. The moment the spirit turtle shield was formed, Su Zimo carried Night Spirit and leaped into the dermic power vortex. Almost at the same time, the attacks of the experts of the primordial 6 races and Defan's great chaos essence palm landed on the spirit turtle shield. Boom! A deafening bang that shook the heavens and earth sounded. A bedazzling light burst forth from the collision point, forming a semicircular barrier that spread rapidly in all directions. The mud on the ground churned and dust billowed. Bang! Boom! Boom! Cracks appeared on the mountains around Heaven and Earth Valley as they caved in one after another. Countless boulders rolled down, and the mountains collapsed. Even the cultivators who had retreated far away to watch the battle felt their ears go deaf and could not hear anything. The power of that collision was way too strong. Some conjoined body mighty figures turned pale. Notwithstanding the power at the center of the collision, even the aftershock that spread out could kill them if they did not dodge in time. The power of a half-martial ancestor is absolutely devastating. Dao Lord Desolate Marshal will definitely die against such terrifying power. As the cultivators discussed, they struggled to open their eyes and look towards the center of the battlefield. In the billowing dust, a blurry figure could vaguely be seen. His scarlet hair was like flames, and although his legs were deeply buried in the mud, his spine was still upright and refused to bend. He's not dead yet? The experts of the primordial 6 races looked at everything in disbelief. That turtle shell was actually able to defend against such a terrifying attack. Even a half-martial ancestor of the human race would be smashed into sludge if he was here. Su Zimo felt relieved. Thankfully, the first thing he awakened was this pure defensive innate divine power from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. This divine power of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness was probably the only thing that could defend against this attack as well. Otherwise, no technique, dermic weapon, divine power or trump card would be able to defend against this attack that targeted his 2 true bodies. Although the bronze square tripod was indestructible, the remnant power would be enough to shatter the dragon true body if it hid within. Of course, although the spirit turtle shield defended against most of the power, this was the full-powered attack of more than 100 experts of the primordial races and a half-martial ancestor after all. The dragon true body did not feel good either. The hands of the dragon true body held the spirit turtle shield. Most of the dragon scales on his body had fallen, and fresh blood seeped out. With that, his tendons and bones felt like they were about to split apart, and he could no longer feel his arms. The flesh on his chest was blurry and his blood chi was extremely weak. He did not have much strength left. A series of cracks appeared on the spirit turtle shield. Those were not the patterns of the turtle shell. It was truly shattered. "He's not dead?" Defan attacked once more. The dragon true body used the last of his strength to pull his legs out of the mud. He leaped into the dermic power vortex behind him and disappeared. Defan transformed into a gigantic palm and reached into the dermic power vortex instantly, wanting to retrieve the dragon true body. Back when Su Zimo tore the major transference talisman, Defan chased him into the spatial tunnel and destroyed his physical body. However, this time round, Defan's expression changed. When his palm reached into the dermic power vortex, it was as though he had sunk into a bottomless ocean and a vast, mysterious starry sky. Within it, the dragon true body was like a speck of dust that he could not capture at all. Although the beast's hide was incomplete, it was etched with a teleportation formation from the ancient era that was much more advanced than the major transference talisman. If a Mahayana patriarch attacked, he might be able to capture the tracks of the dragon true body. However, the power of a half-martial ancestor was not enough to sense anything. Defan retracted his palm and his eyes flickered with rage. As a half-martial ancestor, a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord was as insignificant as an ant in his eyes. However, he had attacked twice. This time round, his true body even descended personally, and yet, the ant still managed to escape from right beneath his eyelids. "Let's see where you can run to!" Defan was enraged and attacked all of a sudden. The great chaos essence palm descended on the dermic power vortex like a gigantic millstone. "The three of you can stay in the void currents forever!" Boom! The dermic power vortex could not withstand it, and was shattered by the great chaos essence palm instantly, collapsing into emptiness and vanishing. Once the spatial tunnel shattered, it would mean that the teleportation would fail and the person would be exiled, placed in the dark and cold void currents without light, and might never be able to return to Tianhuang mainland. That was not all. The wild currents in the void were extremely terrifying, and even the bodies of conjoined body mighty figures would be shredded into pieces with ease. Defan's expression was cold. Although he did not manage to kill Su Zimo personally, the hatred in his heart was relieved after he exiled the three of them into the endless void. After Su Zimo's two true bodies and Night Spirit entered the spatial tunnel, they felt a terrifying external force descend and the spatial tunnel shattered instantly. The dragon true body was pulled away by a powerful suction force and his figure lost control, disappearing before the Green Lotus true body instantly. The Green Lotus true body was alarmed. He hurriedly removed his storage bag and tossed it into his consciousness. Immediately after, the powerful void currents surged in and began attacking the Green Lotus true body and Night Spirit. "Ah!" The Green Lotus true body shouted and felt as though his entire body was being torn apart. An omnipresent ripping force descended, and even with the toughness of the Green Lotus true body, it seemed like he was about to be torn into pieces. He could not control his body or arm at all and felt his embrace lighten. He and Night Spirit were completely dispersed by the void currents. Under the gaze of the Green Lotus true body, Night Spirit disappeared into the dark and cold void before long. Under the terrifying ripping power, his consciousness gradually faded as well. All of a sudden, a divine Buddhist light descended and landed on his body, forming a golden barrier of light on the surface of the Green Lotus true body. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. However, immediately after, he lost consciousness and floated in the dark and cold void. Dizzy and drowsy, Su Zimo was still unconscious. His surroundings alternated between cold and warm. At times, it felt as though he was in an endless abyss that was sinking endlessly. At times, it felt as though he was floating on a boundless ocean. A long time later, Su Zimo's consciousness gradually returned. Although he did not open his eyes, he was gradually waking up. Countless memories of the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley surged into his mind and eventually stopped at the sacred Buddha light he saw in the dark void. There were many things that Su Zimo did not have time to think about when he was on the battlefield, fighting against human cultivators and experts of the primordial races. However, at that moment, his consciousness returned and he gradually woke up. Instantly, he had an answer to many of his doubts. During the battle, a thought crossed his mind, as though he had neglected something. It was only now that he realized it was not something he had neglected, but someone. Monk Beiming. In the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple, Monk Beiming once told him that he no longer needed the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple as bait to refine his bloodline. Those bloodlines were no longer enough to satisfy his appetite. At that time, Su Zimo did not think too much about it. Now that he thought about it, a battlefield like Heaven and Earth Valley was the perfect place for Monk Beiming to refine his blood. Chapter 1322 Plotting Against the Experts of the World. Chapter 1322 Plotting Against the Experts of the World. Although he had already escaped from Heaven and Earth Valley, Su Zimo felt a chill when he recalled many things. Among them, the greatest discovery was the reappearance of the Fiend technique. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra was a fiend technique that even fiend sects were wary of. Monk Beiming was not the only one who had cultivated it. Even the Master of Hellfire Hall and Heavenly Secrets of Enigma Palace had cultivated it. Including him, there were already 4 people. Of course, Su Zimo noticed the terror of that fiend technique in time. After the battle at Thousand Demon Valley, he did not use it no matter how dangerous it was. He had even given up on blood escape. The Green Lotus True Body obtained more than 30 ancient inheritances in the Dao Inheritance ground, and even topped-tier escape techniques such as Boundless Golden Light. The combination of many escape techniques was not weaker than blood escape. Initially, Su Zimo thought that the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley was merely a trap set up by the major sects and factions, as well as the primordial 6 races to deal with him and Night Spirit. But now that he thought about it, things were not that simple. Heavenly Secrets of Enigma Palace played an extremely important role in this trap. To be precise, this trap might have been set up by Heavenly Secrets so that he could cultivate the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Be it Su Zimo, Night Spirit, the primordial 6 races, the major sects and factions, or even the fight for the Dharma characteristic ranking, they were all his chess pieces. That cultivator of Enigma Palace planned everything. Heavenly Secrets' cultivation was much higher than Lin Xuanji's. He definitely had the capability to set up this shocking situation. There were many variables in the entire process, such as the Azure Yen Beichen and Su Zimo's Heaven and Earth Dharma characteristic that had surpassed the extreme realm, as well as the descent of his dragon true body. However, all of those variables were still within Heavenly Secrets' control. That was because the outcome Heavenly Secrets wanted was for an intense battle where even more experts would die and rich bloodlines would be spilled. Unfortunately, another variable appeared later on and changed the situation completely. That variable was Monk Beiming. Su Zimo did not know when Monk Beiming arrived at Heaven and Earth Valley. Or perhaps, he might have hidden himself in Heaven and Earth Valley a long time ago, but nobody discovered him. Monk Beiming did not appear the entire time. However, upon careful thought, he could vaguely capture some clues. The first time was when someone attacked the Master of Hellfire Hall in secret. The Master of Hellfire Hall fought a huge battle with extreme fire and tried to activate the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra to recover his dermic powers and blood chi. However, he ended in failure. If no one had interfered, how could the Master of Hellfire Hall have failed? The second time was when someone broke through the spatial seal of Heaven and Earth Valley. Now that Su Zimo recalled it, the familiarity he felt upon hearing the word break was because it was actually the voice of Monk Beiming. Because Monk Beiming had been watching coldly from the sidelines the entire time, he had sufficient time to locate the spatial nodes of Heaven and Earth Valley and destroy them instantly. He was probably the only one with that capability as well. At the Dharma characteristic realm, he condensed 4 supreme Dharma characteristics. Now that he was already at the conjoined body realm and fused four supreme Dharma characteristics into his physical body, what sort of combat strength did he possess? The third time was when Heavenly Secrets' location was exposed for some unknown reason, attracting the pursuit of Yun Beichen. In the battle between the two of them, Heavenly Secrets wanted to refine his bloodline and retaliate to suppress Yun Beichen. However, he ended in failure as well. Thereafter, Heavenly Secrets fled far away and Yun Beichen chased after him. Monk Daming must have interfered behind the scenes. The fourth time was when Su Zimo entered the dermic power vortex. Di Fan attacked and shattered the spatial tunnel, causing wild currents to surge in. At that time, a Buddhist light appeared in the dark and cold void and shrouded him. Monk Daming was probably the only one who could release a power of the Buddhist monasteries as such. Although Su Zimo escaped far away in the end and did not witness the final outcome of the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley, needless to think, Monk Daming was definitely the biggest winner. Monk Daming released Su Zimo in the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple because of his relationship with Daming Monastery. At the same time, he secretly broke through the spatial seal during the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley. However, that was under the premise that he would not be exposed. That was the reason why Monk Daming had not shown himself the entire time, let alone appear to fight against the experts of the primordial 6 races. His final goal was to refine the bloodlines of Heaven and Earth Valley. Saving Su Zimo was something that happened in passing. Su Zimo sighed emotionally. Heavenly Secrets was from Enigma Palace and controlled everything from the back, using all the experts in the world as chess pieces to set up this earth-shaking scheme. Although he had planned everything, he did not expect that he would be paving the way for others. Some people were even more powerful than him. The mantis stalks the grasshopper, unaware of the Oreo behind. At best, Heavenly Secrets could only be considered as the mantis while Monk Daming was the Oriole. Monk Daming was calm and composed. His talent was shocking and his combat strength was heaven-defying. The moment he returned, he schemed against all the experts in the world and no one could escape from his trap. Even Heavenly Secrets suffered a loss. He had almost no weaknesses. Despite his strength, Monk Daming was locked by someone in the stone coffin for 40,000 years. What sort of existence was the person who locked him? How terrifying was the latter? Su Zimo lamented internally and tried his best to recall the chaotic void. The first to lose connection was his Dragon True Body. The Dragon True Body was the last to leap into the dermic power vortex, and the spatial tunnel shattered. The impact he received was the greatest as well, and he was swept away by the wild currents of the void, vanishing without a trace. Su Zimo believed that given the physique of his Dragon True Body, even the wild currents of the void would have difficulty devouring him. However, if there was no opportunity, his Dragon True Body would probably float in the wild currents of the void forever, and be unable to return to Tianhuan mainland. At the very least, for now, Su Zimo could not sense the existence of his Dragon True Body. Su Zimo called for his Dragon True Body in his heart, but received no response. There were only 3 possibilities. First, his Dragon True Body was already dead. Second, his Dragon True Body was still unconscious and would naturally not respond. Third, his Dragon True Body was still floating in the void currents. Neither scenario was optimistic. Su Zimo thought of Night Spirit. Against the impact of the void currents, he was separated from Night Spirit. Night Spirit's fate was unknown as well. Finally, Su Zimo recalled what he experienced in the wild currents of the void before he fainted. He was in a dark and cold void without any sense of direction, space or time. He could only drift helplessly. Before long, he vaguely heard a sutra being chanted. At the same time, he was extremely familiar with that sutra. It was the Martial Sutra that he had created. The sutra was transmitted through a spatial node and established a mysterious connection with him. His green lotus true body floated in that direction instinctively. Before long, his vision shone brightly and he fell rapidly. The surrounding darkness and coldness had already vanished. The 2 completely different environments dealt a huge blow to the green lotus true body. Furthermore, The Green Lotus true body was injured to begin with and fainted completely from fatigue. However, Su Zimo knew that he had already escaped from the void currents. Right now, he wanted to know where he was. Chapter 13:23 Young Man and Young Lady. Chapter 13:23 Young Man and Young Lady. Suddenly, Su Zimo heard a voice. Sister, is that person still unconscious? A slightly tender voice of a young man sounded, seemingly grumbling. Not yet. Another voice sounded. It was rather pleasant and sounded like a young girl. Su Zimo opened his eyes and looked over. He was in a medium-sized room. Lying on a sandalwood bed, he was covered with a thick blanket. The light-colored curtains were closed and exuded a faint fragrance. On the wooden table beside the bed was a simple basin of orchids and a bronze mirror. The room was clean and tidy. Although the decorations were simple and plain, there was a hint of elegance in it. It looked like a young girl's room. Although the door was tightly shut, Su Zimo could see two figures walking over with his eyesight. The figure on the left was slightly shorter, but his shoulders were wide and he strode with vigor. The figure on the right was slightly taller, and her long hair fluttered. She had a graceful figure that was charming. She must be the elder sister in the conversation earlier on. Sister, that person's background is unknown. You've done your best to take care of him for so long. In my opinion, you should just throw him out and let him fend for himself, the young man on the left said. What's the difference between throwing him out now and killing him? The girl shook her head. We have to wait for him to wake up before making further plans. But, sister, your dantian is destroyed and yet, you're still painstakingly taking care of that person daily. I'm worried that your body… The young man hesitated. It's nothing much. The girl smiled. During this period of time, I began cultivating the martial Dao and gained some insights. My condition has already improved. Sister, you're still cultivating the martial Dao? The young man seemed to frown. I heard from outside that the fiend, Desolate Martial, joined forces with the primordial taboo and killed many people in the Middle Continent. What's so good about the cultivation techniques left behind by that fiend? The girl did not refute and merely said indifferently, Those are just rumors. The cultivators of the 3 aristocratic families did not even head over for the Dharma characteristic ranking. Who saw it personally? They are just rumors. Su Zimo's heart stirred. 3 aristocratic families? However, I heard that Desolate Martial offended the immortal, Buddhist and fiend Daos and was encircled by them. Think about it, sister. If he wasn't a heinous fiend, how could he be ostracized by the immortal, Buddhist and fiend Daos? The young man refused to give up and continued. The girl went silent. After a brief pause, she continued. I'm not sure about anything else. However, we witnessed Desolate Martial establishing a Dao and imparting martial arts to all living beings. This is a glorious achievement that will bring blessings to the world. Half of the Martial Sutra is passed down through the world so that all living beings in the world can cultivate it. Nothing can erase such a great merit. The young man seemed to be indignant still and continued. Although that's the case, how many people have been able to condense blood-chi golden cores since Desolate Martial passed down the martial Dao? That's normal, the girl said. Cultivation is a heaven-defying act to begin with. Even among those with spirit roots, less than 1 in 10,000 can form a core. Furthermore, the cultivation of the martial Dao is even more difficult. Forget it, let's not argue about such stuff. She waved it off and changed the topic with a smile. You haven't had lunch yet, right? I'll go make you something to eat after I pack up. With that said, the girl pushed the door open with a creak. The siblings stood at the entrance and saw that Su Zimo had already opened his eyes and was looking at them with a calm gaze. The young man was not old and was around 13 years old. From a young age, he already looked mature and had a bearing. The girl was around 16 years old and had yet to turn completely adult. However, she was already slender and elegant with skin that was fair as snow. She was extremely beautiful and her eyes were bright and spirited. Ah! The young man's expression changed starkly as he exclaimed. In a flash, he appeared in front of the girl and glared at Su Zimo warily. A look of surprise and joy appeared on the girl's face when she saw that Su Zimo was awake. However, she was much calmer compared to the young man. Su Zimo lifted the blanket on his body and stood up slowly. The young man's heart skipped a beat, and he reacted swiftly. Slapping the storage bag on his waist, he withdrew a flying sword with a spirit pattern etched on it. It was an inferior-grade spirit weapon. He conjured a hand seal with his left hand and controlled his flying sword with his right, ready to strike at any moment. He reminded softly, "Sister, watch out!" Su Zimo watched carefully. The youth was at Foundation Establishment realm and his series of actions were rather swift. However, the girl did not move at all. When she saw how guarded the young man was, she smiled and merely shook her head gently. Pushing the young man away, she cupped her fists towards Su Zimo. "Please forgive us, mister. My younger brother is merely worried about me." Su Zimo nodded without saying anything and sized up the girl carefully. Back when he was in the chaotic void and heard someone chanting the Martial Dao Sutra, this should be the girl. It was also a freak coincidence. This girl cultivated the martial Dao and happened to be in a nearby spatial node. Through it, she established a connection with Su Zimo, who was in the wild currents of the void. That was the reason why Su Zimo was able to escape. Otherwise, he did not know how long he would have to continue floating if he missed this spatial node. In other words, although the girl before him did it unintentionally, she saved his life. Su Zimo looked at the girl in a daze. However, the young man's expression turned extremely terrible. "Hey! What are you looking at? Do you believe that I'll gouge your eyeballs out in a fit of anger?" The young man thought that Su Zimo had ulterior motives towards the girl and could not help but holler. Su Zimo snapped out of his stupor and could not help but laugh when he heard the young man's threat. He was a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord and could be considered as the #1 Dao Lord of Tianhuang mainland. But now, he was threatened by a mere Foundation Establishment cultivator. However, the young man could not be blamed. Right now, Su Zimo's situation was a little special. Before entering the wild currents of the void, the black-haired essence spirit was affected by the life-severing curse released by the self-destruction of Wu Xia's essence spirit. Up till now, the power had not dissipated and shrouded Su Zimo's black-haired essence spirit. Therefore, Su Zimo could not use the power of his essence spirit at all. In other words, he could not release spirit consciousness, dharmic arts, or even heaven and earth dharma characteristics. Others would not be able to see through him, and would merely take him as a mortal. Of course, that did not mean that he could not protect himself. Given Su Zimo's green lotus true body, even if he did not move, any dharma characteristic Dao Lord might not be able to hurt him. Furthermore, he could release shocking combat strength in melee combat with his green lotus true body. Unlike the young man, although the girl was stared at by Su Zimo for a long time, she did not feel disgusted. For some reason, perhaps it was her sixth sense, but she could not sense the malevolent intent in the green-robed man's heart. Furthermore, the green-robed man's eyes were clear and bright. Although he was staring at her, the way he looked at her was different from how many people looked at her. This gave her a sense of trust unconsciously. Chapter 1324 Beiming Xue. Chapter 1324 Beiming Xue. "Little brother, put away your spirit weapon. Don't be rude." The girl patted the young man on the shoulder and berated him. "Humph!" The young man grit his teeth and glared at Su Zimo fiercely. Although he was unwilling, he still obeyed the girl's orders and retracted his flying sword slowly. However, he refused to relax. His muscles were tense, and he looked wary, as though he could jump and attack at any moment. Right now, Su Zimo's essence spirit was locked by the power of the life-severing curse and he could not use his dharmic powers. To others, he looked like a mortal without any cultivation at all. Therefore, it was not surprising that the young man and girl could not tell Su Zimo's cultivation. At that moment, even conjoined body mighty figures could not see through Su Zimo's strength. "You are the one who saved me?" Su Zimo looked at the girl and asked. She nodded with a reminiscent expression. That day, I was cultivating outside when suddenly, dark clouds filled the skies and lightning flashed. A bolt of lightning descended and pierced an ancient tree. You fell not far away and must have fainted from the shock of that thunderbolt, hence why I brought you back. Su Zimo nodded. How should I address you, mister? The girl asked again. Su Zimo pondered for a moment. My surname is Su. He did not know where he was right now. Coupled with the fact that his essence spirit was locked and his combat strength was greatly reduced, there was naturally no way he could reveal everything about himself. Of course, Su Zimo guessed that given the young man and girl's experience of the world, they had never heard of him even if he said his name. Everyone in Tianhuang mainland knew of Desolate Marshal. However, not many people knew that Desolate Marshal's true name was Su Zimo. Humph! The young man harumphed coldly and mocked. You're being secretive. One look and I can tell that you're not a good person. The girl did not say anything. In her opinion, it was only logical for this green-robed man to be guarded against outsiders since he was in a foreign land and had just awakened. What are your names? Su Zimo asked. My name is Beiming Xue. The girl smiled and did not hide anything. She patted the young man beside her. This is my younger brother, Beiming Xue. He was a little rude to Mr. Su. Please don't blame him. Sister, you don't even know who he is. Why tell him our names? The young man called Beiming Xue twisted his body, seemingly unwilling. Beiming Xue smiled and shook her head. There was no need to hide something as such. Beiming. Su Zimo frowned slightly and murmured. That surname isn't too common. When he heard that, Beiming Xue clenched his fists in frustration. A look of sadness flashed through Beiming Xue's eyes as she lowered her head slightly. Where is this? Su Zimo asked again. Beiming Xue said, This is Beiming Town and my clansmen are all in the town. Beiming Town? Su Zimo was confused and asked again. Where is Beiming Town? The East Region? Middle Continent? Beiming Xue shook her head. Beiming Town is located in the South Region of Tianhuang mainland. South Region? Su Zimo was shocked. To think that he would have arrived at the South Region of Tianhuang mainland after activating the teleportation formation on the beast hide with the spatial tunnel destroyed by D Fan. He had never stepped foot into this place before and was extremely foreign to it. Of course, he had some understanding of the South Region as well. For example, one of the 6 Buddhist monasteries, Dapamkara Monastery, where Mingjin was located, was a super sect of the South Region. Ever since he parted ways with Mingjin in the Dao Inheritance ground, the two of them had not seen each other. Mingjin had obtained the inheritance of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva previously and his cultivation should not have fallen too far behind. He should have already entered the Dharma characteristic realm. If he had conjured his Ksitigarbha true body, he would have a reason to take part in the fight for the Dharma characteristic ranking. Could Mingjin have already seen through secular titles and no longer wanted to compete for the Dharma characteristic ranking? Or could something have happened to Mingjin? The North region was now ruled by the capital of Great Zhou alongside various major sects and factions. The Middle Continent relied entirely on the super sections. The South region was different from the North and Middle Continent. The strongest factions in the South region were the legendary 3 aristocratic families. The 9 immortal sects, 8 demon races, 7 fiend sects, 6 Buddhist monasteries, 5 heretical doctrines and 4 unorthodox groups followed by the 3 aristocratic families. The 3 aristocratic families were different from the Yuan and Taba families that Su Zimo had fought in the North region. These 3 aristocratic families were truly passed down from the ancient era and ruled over the South region. They were eternal and had experienced countless storms. The most terrifying thing was that in the ancient era, the 3 aristocratic families of the South region gave birth to emperors. That was the most important reason why the 3 aristocratic families had been passed down through history. All 3 ancient aristocratic families had different surnames. The Dongfang, Nangong and Shimin aristocratic families. In the South region, those 3 surnames were more useful than any Dao title. Cultivators of the 3 surnames could dominate the South region. Judging from your words, you're not from the South region, Mr. Xue? Beiming Xue frowned slightly and asked curiously. Yes. Xue Zimo nodded. If you're not from the South region, how did you get here? What are your motives for coming to Beiming town? Beiming Ao questioned immediately. This time round, Beiming Xue did not stop him either. After all, she had done her best to save Xue Zimo since his background was unknown. She did not know if Xue Zimo was good or bad either. If Xue Zimo truly had other motives, she could not let him stay in Beiming town. It's a long story. Xue Zimo chuckled bitterly. If he were to explain how he arrived at the South region, the young man and girl would definitely be scared out of their wits. Humph! The young man sneered. Sister, what did I say? That person sure is conniving and secretive. He's not a good person. Xue Zimo could not be bothered to refute. His gaze shifted to Beiming Xue's dantian, and he frowned slightly. Your dantian is shattered? Earlier on, when he heard the conversation between the young man and girl, he thought that Beiming Xue's dantian was only destroyed because she had made a mistake in her cultivation. From the looks of it, Beiming Xue's dantian was clearly shattered by an external force. Beiming Xue did not reply and asked instead, You know about cultivation too, Mr. Xue? A little. Xue Zimo nodded. Beiming Xue pursed her lips. There's nothing to hide. If my dantian is destroyed, so be it. At most, I'll just restart. In her eyes, there was no hint of loss or despair from the destruction of her dantian. Even Xue Zimo had to praise that unyielding gaze internally. Sister, don't worry. I'll definitely take revenge for you. When Beiming Ao heard that, he even gave up on attacking Xue Zimo for the time being. Turning back, he grit his teeth and said hatefully, Little brother, don't interfere in this matter. Beiming Xue shook her head. How can I not interfere? Beiming Ao said indignantly. You finally managed to form your core, but it was destroyed by that woman. This feud is irreconcilable. Xue Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he was moved. This Beiming Xue, who was merely around 16 years old, managed to form a golden core. Such talent was indeed shocking. Chapter 1325 Beiming Aristocratic Family. Chapter 1325 Beiming Aristocratic Family. Xue Zimo did not know how long Beiming Xue had been cultivating for, but judging from her movements, she seemed like she had already reached lesser mastery of the first transformation of the martial Dao, 9 bulls 2 tiger. The pain, despair and confusion of having his golden core destroyed was something that Xue Zimo had experienced personally. It was not something that ordinary people could endure, and even with his willpower, he was once despondent. If he had not seen what Daiyu left at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley, it would have been difficult for him to reignite his hope. It was hard to imagine how difficult it must have been for the 15-year-old girl before him to endure through it on her own without sinking into depression and turning to cultivate the martial Dao. Furthermore, the amount of pain and suffering she had to endure was unimaginable. From that girl, Xue Zimo could see the determination to fight against fate, the unyieldingness to it, the determination to continue and advance forward. That was the will of the martial Dao. Suddenly, a thought crossed Xue Zimo's mind, but he suppressed it quickly. How long have I been asleep? Xue Zimo pondered for a moment before asking. Beiming Xue replied. It's been a year. That long? Xue Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. This meant that a year had passed since the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley. He did not know what major events in the cultivation world happened in the past year or if Yan Beichen was still fine. Xue Zimo thought for a moment and asked indirectly. I heard you guys arguing about the fight for the Dharma characteristic ranking and the Great Fiend. What was that about? The Great Fiend, desolate martial. Beiming Ao pouted his lips as though he was filled with hatred. That fiend went on a massacre in the Middle Continent and attracted the encirclement of the immortal Buddhist and fiend sections. I heard that he was exiled into the void by a supreme expert of the immortal sects and died a long time ago. Oh. Xue Zimo nodded. Beiming Xue frowned slightly and looked at Xue Zimo thoughtfully. She had a feeling that Mr. Xue's question was a little abrupt. She had once thought that Mr. Xue might be a cultivator or even a great cultivator. He merely hid his cultivation and they could not see through him. However, when she saw that Su Zimo's face was yellowed and sickly, it was far from the aura of a human cultivator. Furthermore, he did not have the mighty aura of a human cultivator. As such, she did not think too much about it. At that moment, Su Zimo's black-haired essence spirit was shrouded by the power of the life-severing curse and did not look well. His body was frail and he looked like a weak scholar who had not recovered from a long illness. Right then, the ground far away quaked violently. Before long, the sound of horses neighing and beasts roaring could be heard outside. Demonic chi swirled and spirit energy surged into the air. Although Su Zimo could not use his spirit consciousness to check, he could tell with a single glance that it was a group of cultivators who had barged into this Beiming town riding on spirit beasts and demons. "It's them again!" Beiming Xue's expression changed as he grit his teeth. Beiming Xue had a calm expression, as though she was already used to this. Although he could not see what was going on outside due to the wall in the courtyard, Su Zimo's hearing was strong and he could hear the shouts coming from the town. "Search carefully and don't miss out on any ancient treasures," a voice sounded in an arrogant manner. The Beiming aristocratic family was also a major family that was ranked alongside our 3 aristocratic families in the past. Their foundations are truly strong. Ha ha! A series of laughter broke out from the crowd outside. Su Zimo's heart stirred. To think that the Beiming clan would have such a powerful background. However, by the looks of it, it seemed like things had already deteriorated to such a state where no one resisted despite being bullied. A large group of spirit beasts and demons galloped through Beiming town fearlessly. "It's Dongfang Xian!" When Beiming Xue heard the commotion outside, a deep hatred flashed through his eyes. Unable to hold it in, he rushed out of the room and ran out of the courtyard. "Little brother!" Beiming Xue chased after him hurriedly and held him back, shaking her head. "What's the difference between rushing up now and committing suicide? His sister was the one who destroyed your golden core. I can't take it lying down." Beiming Xue clenched his fists with reddened eyes. Beiming Xue replied, "It's nothing much. This is a feud between me and Dongfang Ji. I'll settle it in the future." Right then, the group of cultivators arrived outside the courtyard. Boom! The high wall of the courtyard was smashed by a tremendous force, causing gravel to fly everywhere as it collapsed. Dozens of cultivators stood outside the billowing dust. Most of them were Foundation establishment cultivators and there were even a few golden cores among them. All of them were riding on spirit beasts, and looked down at Beiming Xue and her brother in the courtyard. "Dongfang Xian, what are you trying to do?" Beiming Xue hollered with widened eyes. Although he was young, he already possessed an extraordinary aura. Dongfang Xian was a young man in his 20s. He had already cultivated to the golden core realm, and was riding on a menacing demon beast. The demon beast's eyes were bloodshot, its fur was luxuriant, and its limbs were strong. Tall and mighty, it exuded a torrential malevolent aura. It was an ancient remnant beast, the Bane spirit hound. That ancient remnant beast was already a golden core spirit demon. When it heard Beiming Xue's shout at Dongfang Xian, it could not help but roar at Beiming Xue. Glaring at Beiming Xue with bloodshot eyes, it lowered its body and accumulated strength while drooling from the corners of its mouth. Notwithstanding the golden cores on the other end, the Bane spirit hound alone was enough to kill Beiming Xue and her brother with ease. Although Beiming Xue was fearful against the ancient remnant beast, he did not retreat at all and glared at the Bane spirit hound fixedly as well. Even Beiming Xue, who had her golden core crippled, stood shoulder to shoulder with Beiming Xue fearlessly. "Fufu!" Dongfang Xian patted the Bane spirit hound beneath him and sneered. "Bastard, calm down! Calm down!" Everyone could tell that the bastard that Dongfang Xian was referring to was Beiming Xue. The cultivators behind Dongfang Xian roared in laughter. "Isn't that Miss Beiming who fought with my sister for the treasure? TSK, TSK. To think that she's still alive after her golden core was destroyed by my sister. That's not easy." Dong Fangxian shifted his gaze towards Beiming Xue and said in an odd manner. Beiming Xue had a calm expression and remained silent. Dong Fangxian, don't go overboard! Beiming Xue clenched his fists and shouted. That's what I want to do. What can you do about it? Dong Fangxian pouted. Young lad, you can't even defeat the spirit demon I'm riding on. Who do you think you are to go against me? Dong Fangxian, just you wait. I'll definitely fight you after I advance to the Golden Core realm. Beiming Xue said word by word. Oh my! Dong Fangxian burst into laughter. You're declaring war on me? Ha! Some cultivators of the Dongfang aristocratic family roared in laughter as well. How long should I wait? Dong Fangxian asked with a fake smile. 10, 20, or 100 years? 3 years, Beiming Xue said. The aristocratic family competition is in 3 years. At that time, I'll naturally compete with you. Dong Fangxian asked with a fake ignorance. The aristocratic family competition is a matter between our 3 ancient aristocratic families. What has it got to do with the Beiming family? Oh! Dong Fangxian came to a realization. I almost forgot that your Beiming family was ranked alongside our 3 aristocratic families in the ancient era. What a pity that your Beiming family only has a few hundred people left. Sigh, you won't even have a successor. Chapter 1326 Guarded Secret. Chapter 1326 Guarded Secret. Dong Fangxian, if you have nothing else, leave. Beiming Xue said indifferently. How many times have you guys been to Beiming town over the years? Even if there are any treasures, they have long been taken away by your 3 aristocratic families. Not necessarily, Dong Fangxian said. I heard that your Beiming aristocratic family guards a shocking secret of the ancient era. It might be a huge treasure or secret cultivation technique. Who knows what sort of supreme treasure it is? Beiming Xue smiled self-deprecatingly. If there was truly such a treasure, would the Beiming aristocratic family have declined to such an extent? Dong Fangxian waved his hand. Search! Don't miss anything such as a secret key, beast hide, or treasure map. Take anything that looks old with you. The cultivators of the Dongfang aristocratic family swarmed in and searched the courtyard brazenly. Right in front of Su Zimo, things like stone stools, teapots, and bronze mirrors that couldn't be any more common were swept away by the cultivators into their storage bags. It was no wonder why the decorations in the courtyard and rooms seemed so simple. If cultivators of the 3 aristocratic families were to come and loot the place from time to time, there would indeed be nothing left. Su Zimo stood at the side and watched coldly. When the cultivators of the Dongfang aristocratic family saw that he was a mere mortal, none of them looked at him properly or bothered with him. After looting the courtyard wantonly and discovering nothing, the cultivators of the Dongfang aristocratic family left under Dong Fangxian's lead. Su Zimo's gaze shifted. Not far away in the courtyard, on the long street of Beiming town, an extraordinarily handsome man with a golden core cultivation stood looking over. Brother Nangong! Beiming Xue was delighted when he saw that figure, and exclaimed. He wanted to charge forward, but Beiming Xue grabbed his arm and pulled him back. Beiming Xue was puzzled but still asked. Brother Nangong, where have you been for the past year? Why haven't you visited my sister? Do you know? My sister saw a spirit weapon first and paid for it with spirit stones. However, Dong Fangji caught sight of it and insisted on snatching it away. Because my sister refused to give it to her, she broke my sister's golden core. From the looks of it, this perfected being Nangong should be someone from the Nangong aristocratic family, and had a close relationship with Beiming Xue. Beiming Xue seemed to trust him a lot. However, he was too young and there were many things he could not understand. Su Zimo realized that something was amiss with just those few words. The fact that perfected being Nangong had not visited Beiming Xue for an entire year after her golden core was shattered was proof of trouble. Furthermore, the way Beiming Xue looked at perfected being Nangong was clearly a little cold. Perfected being Nangong walked over slowly. When he heard Beiming Xue's words, he nodded with an indifferent expression. I heard. Little Xue, Dong Fangji is a direct descendant of the Dong Fang aristocratic family. Why are you fighting with her? Perfected being Nangong looked at Beiming Xue and said slowly. Beiming Xue smirked with a mocking expression. She was smart, and had expected this. However, Beiming Ao's eyes were widened in disbelief. Brother Nangong, what are you talking about? Dong Fangji was the unreasonable one who snatched my sister's belongings. If she wants it, just give it to her. Perfected being Nangong said indifferently. Beiming Ao was dumbfounded, as though he had just met this man for the first time. Beiming Xue said, That's right. She's a direct descendant of the Dong Fang aristocratic family and has a noble status. If she wants it, I'll give it to her. Why argue with her? After a brief pause, she shook her head. However, I don't want to give it. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. It was a familiar sight. It was a familiar sentence. You don't want to give it to her? Perfected being Nangong laughed, and shook his head. What's the outcome? Your golden core is crippled and you'll be a cripple from now on. What do you have to fight against Dong Fangji? Nangong you! Beiming Ao shouted. What are you talking about? Don't you fancy my sister? What do you mean by that? Fufu. Nangong Yu smiled. Do you really think that I approached your sister because I fancied her? I merely wanted to obtain the secret guarded by the Beiming aristocratic family from you guys. In other words, given your sister's status, she will only be a concubine even if she marries into the Nangong family. Those words were even more hurtful than swords and spears. Beiming Xue shuddered, but she pursed her lips and steadied herself. You! Beiming Ao was enraged and charged forward with grit teeth, wanting to fight Nangong Yu to the death. Beiming Xue held him back tightly. That's the way. Nangong Yu laughed. Little Xue, although you're already a cripple, I can still give you a promise. Nangong Yu raised his head slightly and said proudly, As long as you tell me the secret guarded by the Beiming aristocratic family, I'll allow you to marry into the Nangong family as a concubine. At the very least, I'll be able to protect the two of you so that you don't have to endure too much humiliation. Furthermore, you will be able to obtain some cultivation resources and techniques or secret skills in my Nangong family. Scram! Beiming Xue mouthed coldly. Nangong Yu shook his head and chuckled. Beiming Xue, you have to consider this carefully. Your Beiming aristocratic family has already fallen to such a state, and you're a cripple as well. I'm merely giving you two a chance because I pity you. Don't regret it. Nangong Yu! Beiming Ao could not help but curse angrily. You're merely a collateral descendant of the Nangong aristocratic family. What are you getting cocky for? The three aristocratic families were powerful and had many bloodlines. They had hundreds of millions of descendants. Among them, the direct descendants had the most noble bloodlines and the collateral lineages were way inferior. As a collateral descendant of the Nangong aristocratic family, Nangong Yu's status in the family was indeed not ranked. The only way he could fit in was if he was a rare monster incarnate or paragon. Nangong Yu was not enraged either. It's precisely because I'm from a collateral lineage that I want the secret guarded by the Beiming aristocratic family. Once I obtain the secret, I'll have naturally done a great deed and can integrate into the direct lineage. The two of you will be able to gain my protection as well. Nangong Yu spread his hands. This is the best of both worlds. Why not? Scram! Beiming Xue spoke slowly and cleanly. It was as though she felt disgusted just by saying another word to Nangong Yu. Ugh! Nangong Yu shook his head and sighed. How stubborn! Let's see how long you two can last. He pointed to the dilapidated walls and a courtyard that was trampled into a derelict state. There will be many more days like this for you guys, Fufu. Nangong Yu's gaze shifted and landed on Su Zimo naturally. He frowned slightly. For some reason, the gaze of the green-robed cultivator caused his heart to flutter inexplicably. However, he quickly realized that the green-robed cultivator was merely a mortal and turned to leave with a stifled chuckle. Chapter 1327 Karma. Chapter 1327 Karma. Right from the beginning, Suzimo did not attack and merely watched coldly from the sidelines. The thought that he had suppressed initially resurfaced. Actually, when he sensed that rare determination of the martial Dao from Beiming Xue earlier on, Suzimo had already thought of taking her in as a disciple. However, he reconsidered because his identity was unique. He had offended many supersects and primordial races. If he appeared in the cultivation world, he would definitely be hunted down. It was difficult for him to protect himself. If he were to accept a disciple, he might bring upon a calamity for the latter. In reality, given Suzimo's capabilities, he was long qualified to take in disciples. All these years, he had not done it because he was worried that he would attract trouble and implicate his disciples. But now, after everything that happened to Beiming Xue, a mysterious feeling grew in him, and he finally made up his mind to accept a disciple. Beiming Xue was like him back in Pingyang town. He watched everything coldly from the sidelines, just like Dai Yu did in the past. It was a mysterious and indescribable feeling of fate. More importantly, Beiming Xue cultivated the martial Dao and rescued him from the wild currents of the void. That was equivalent to saving his life. She picked him up the same way he picked Dai Yu up back then. From there on, he obtained an opportunity and stepped onto the path of cultivation. In fact, Beiming Xue's experience was similar to his. Everything was a freak combination of karma and reincarnation, as though everything was predetermined. Now that Suzimo was tainted by the life-severing curse and had no clue how to resolve it, he might as well stay in Beiming town for the time being. "Sister, are you all right?" Beiming Ao asked with concern. Although Beiming Xue did not reveal any sadness the entire time, Nangong Yu's words were truly hurtful. "It's fine," Beiming Xue smiled. Beiming Ao was finally relieved when he saw his sister smile. "Sister, don't worry, there's 3 more years. I'll definitely cultivate well. Dongfang Xian, Dongfang Ji and Nangong Yu. I won't let any of them off." Beiming Ao clenched his fists and swore. "Yes, little brother. I believe in you." Beiming Xue nodded. "Sister, I have to seize the time to head to the main hall of the clan and cultivate. There's a chance that I might not return much during this period of time." "Can you survive all by yourself?" Beiming Ao asked. "It's fine, don't worry about me," Beiming Xue said. "Go and cultivate. You don't have to come back to visit me during this period of time either. This is Beiming town and nothing major will happen. It will just be people from the 3 aristocratic families coming and going." Beiming Ao nodded. Immediately, as though he recalled something, he looked at Suzimo who was not far away and frowned, hollering. "Hey you, aren't you leaving yet?" Beiming Xue's heart softened when she saw that Suzimo looked frail and his face was gaunt and yellow. "Little brother, go on and cultivate. I'll take care of Mr. Su's matter." Beiming Ao nodded hesitantly. "That works too. If anything happens, sister, call for me at the clan's grand hall." "Yes." Beiming Xue nodded. Beiming Ao glared at Suzimo fiercely one last time before turning to leave and disappeared before long. Beiming Xue watched him leave before turning around slowly. She gazed at the huge mess in the courtyard in silence, and her eyes gradually reddened. Finally, she squatted down slowly and hugged herself with both arms before bursting into tears. This young girl did not show any fear when she was bullied by the Dongfang aristocratic family. She did not cry despite being mocked and wronged by Nangong Yu. However, after the Dongfang aristocratic family, Nangong Yu and her young brother left, she still bawled to release her pent-up emotions and grievances. She was only 15 years old after all and had endured too much. Suzimo merely stood at the side without heading up to console her. However, a look of admiration flashed through his eyes. A long time later, the sobbing gradually stopped. Beiming Xue reached out and wiped away the tears on her face. She stood up and couldn't help but blush when she saw Suzimo looking at her. "I'm sorry I've caused you to witness a joke," she said. Earlier on, she was upset and could not help but forget that Suzimo was still around. Suzimo smiled gently. "It's fine. Where are you headed, Mr. Su? If it's nearby, can I escort you back?" Beiming Xue asked. Su Zimo shook his head. If it's convenient, I intend to stay here for a period of time. I wonder if you... I'm all right with it, Beiming Xue said. There are some empty rooms here. However, something like this might happen again in the future. I'm afraid it might disturb you. It's nothing much. Su Zimo waved it off. I don't care. Beiming Xue frowned slightly. Although Mr. Su was immortal, he knew quite a few things about the cultivation world. Furthermore, he showed no fear towards everything that happened today. If it was any other ordinary mortal, notwithstanding everything else, they would be scared out of their wits at the sight of those menacing spirit beasts and demons. However, Mr. Su seemed like he was fine. Yet he did not seem like he was a cultivator either. What a strange person. Beiming Xue was puzzled but did not think too much about it. For some reason, she had an inexplicable sense of trust in this green-robed man, as though she believed that he would definitely not hurt her. What are they talking about when they referred to the Beiming aristocratic family? Su Zimo asked. Beiming Xue thought for a moment, and did not hide anything. In the ancient era, there were initially 4 aristocratic families in the south region: Dongfang, Nangong, Ximen, and Beiming. However, later on, the Beiming aristocratic family gradually declined and did not rise again. In the ancient era, the Beiming aristocratic family was comparable to the 3 great aristocratic families and had 100 million clansmen. Unfortunately, this small town is the only thing left now. Beiming Xue laughed in a self-deprecating manner. Even so, the 3 aristocratic families refused to let Beiming town off and came by from time to loot it. They are looking for the secret guarded by the Beiming aristocratic family? Su Zimo asked in a testing manner. Yes, Beiming Xue replied. It's said that our family has protected a shocking secret for generations. However, I don't know about it, nor has anyone told us. It's the same for the other clansmen. All these years, the 3 aristocratic families have snatched away the treasures, cultivation techniques and secret skills of the Beiming aristocratic family. Even Beiming town has been dug up but no secret has been discovered. Pausing for a moment, she continued. The reason why the 3 aristocratic families left our Beiming clansmen alive was because they had hopes of discovering that so-called secret from us. Fufu, if there was truly a shocking secret, it would have been discovered a long time ago. Why would it be hidden for so long? Su Zimo nodded. However, that rumor was not entirely bad for the Beiming aristocratic family. If not for that rumor, the Beiming aristocratic family would have been destroyed long ago, without a single clansman remaining. Chapter 1328 Dao Inheritance. Chapter 1328 Dao Inheritance. Mr. Su, you've just woken up and you don't seem well. Go and rest first. I'll clean up here. Beiming Xue pointed to the courtyard. Su Zimo nodded and did not decline. He had just woken up and intended to check on the status of his body. Back in his room, Su Zimo checked his consciousness and frowned. More than half the power of the life-severing curse was destroyed by the green lotus sword. However, the curse was extremely vicious and still shrouded the black-haired essence spirit, preventing him from using his spirit consciousness. There was no need to even think about comprehending heaven and earth, or cultivating cultivation techniques to advance his cultivation. This meant that if he could not remove the power of the curse, Su Zimo's cultivation would remain at the perfected Dharma characteristic realm forever. What was worse was that he could not use his dharmic powers or any essence spirit secret skills. It was difficult to remove the power of the curse with the power of the black-haired essence spirit. He had to make use of external forces. Su Zimo gazed at the creation lotus platform beneath the black-haired essence spirit thoughtfully. At that moment, due to the existence of the life-severing curse, the creation lotus platform was completely isolated from the black-haired essence spirit, and even the glow that shot out from the lotus holes could not penetrate the power of the life-severing curse. If the creation lotus platform could recover to its original state and become a true creation green lotus, the power of the green lotus would definitely be able to purge the life-severing curse. However, how difficult would it be to resurrect the creation green lotus? It was probably many times more difficult than purging the power of the life-severing curse itself. The only possibility was if he had the primordial divine spring. But now, Dragon Bone Valley was the only place that had a primordial divine spring Su Zimo knew of. However, the Green Lotus true body could not enter it at all. A year had passed since the battle in Heaven and Earth Valley. The dragon race must have heard the news long ago. He wondered what the dragon race would think if they knew that the dragon true body was a clone of Su Zimo. The red-headed ghost and some elders of the dragon race treated the dragon true body well. Now that his dragon true body was exiled into the void and had disappeared, Su Zimo felt guilty towards the dragon race and the red-headed ghost. At the thought of the red-headed ghost, another doubt flashed through Su Zimo's mind. After Patriarch Yuan Bei passed away, the red-headed ghost did not return to Dragon Bone Valley, and nobody knew where he went. Suppressing his distracting thoughts, Su Zimo closed his eyes and tried to connect to heaven and earth to remove the power of the life-severing curse. Time gradually passed, and in the blink of an eye, it was already late at night. Su Zimo opened his eyes slowly and smiled bitterly, shaking his head. He still could not do it. The curse released by the self-destruction of a mighty figure of the witch race was indeed terrifying. It was already extremely fortunate that he was able to survive. If not for the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, even if his dragon true body cultivated a powerful essence spirit and terrifying killing techniques such as the reverse scale, it would be difficult for him to defend against the life-severing curse. Huff! Huff! Right then, the sound of punches in the air could be heard from the courtyard. Su Zimo walked out of the room and caught sight of a young girl practicing 9 different motions under the bright moonlight. She was agile and graceful. After a long practice, the girl's face was filled with sweat, and she had a serious expression, not realizing that Su Zimo was beside her. Su Zimo gazed at the round moon above his head in a daze, as though he had returned to that night many years ago. Under the same moonlight beneath a tree where peach blossoms scattered, a woman granted him an opportunity and brought him onto the path of cultivation. Mr. Su. Right then, a voice sounded from the courtyard. Beiming Xue saw Su Zimo and stopped, panting slightly. Su Zimo nodded. This is the martial Dao, right? Yes. Beiming Xue said. Desolate Martial wishes to establish a Dao and impart martial arts to all living beings. Even without a spirit root, one can cultivate the martial Dao. Have you tested before to see if you possess a spirit root, mister? I've tested and I don't have one. He shook his head. That's fine too. Beiming Xue smiled. If you wish to cultivate, why don't you give it a try and cultivate the martial Dao? I've been cultivating for around a year and I feel that my strength has grown. I've learned something from it. When she saw that Su Zimo was indifferent and did not seem interested, she thought for a moment and said, Even if you don't wish to enter the cultivation world, it's good for you to cultivate martial arts and strengthen your body. Actually, I know a little about the martial Dao as well. Su Zimo smiled gently. Huh! You know it too, mister? Beiming Xue asked in surprise. Yes. Su Zimo nodded. There's something wrong with your technique. Beiming Xue frowned and looked at Su Zimo skeptically. This is a Dao move imparted by Desolate Martial. I've long memorized it. How can there be a mistake? Su Zimo did not say much and performed the 9 actions of the first transformation right in front of Beiming Xue. What's the difference? Beiming Xue was still confused. Their actions were almost identical. There were only slight differences. You have to understand that among the 9 transformations of the martial Dao, there are only 9 actions per transformation. These 9 actions were tempered after countless years of deduction, and there's no room for mistakes. Su Zimo said in a deep voice. On the surface, it might seem like there's a slight difference. However, any deviation leads to a world of difference. Beiming Xue was still skeptical. After all, she was once a cultivator and had even cultivated to the Golden Core realm. If it was anyone else, they would be skeptical as well to receive guidance from a mortal without any cultivation. In her opinion, how could a mortal who was not Dao Lord Desolate Martial understand his thoughts? Beiming Xue said. Mr. Xue, I don't seem to have any problems cultivating. In the past year, my strength has increased. Although I'm not at the strength of 9 bulls yet, I do have the strength of 5 bulls, Su Zimo said indifferently. Given your cultivation speed, which transformation of the martial Dao will you reach in 3 years' time? The 3rd or the 4th? In the aristocratic family competition, you will still be bullied by people like Dong Fangji, let alone take revenge. Beiming Xue was silent. She knew that Su Zimo was not wrong. Given her cultivation speed, she would require at least 10 years to cultivate to the blood qi golden core. Su Zimo continued. Furthermore, if you continue cultivating like this, you might be able to condense a blood qi golden core in the future. However, your accomplishments will be limited as well. You can forget about reaching the later stages of astral infusion, indestructible diamond, or even dragon elephant force. Given Beiming Xue's talent, she could cultivate to the 6th transformation of the martial Dao, the blood qi golden core, even if she were to cultivate on her own. That way, she would have a chance to condense an essence spirit and advance to the nascent soul realm. However, Su Zimo knew very well that the 6th transformation of the martial Dao was not the endpoint. The final 3 transformations of the martial Dao were the true essence of the martial sutra. That was a heaven-defying technique that could transform one's body and suppress their peers. Now that Beiming Xue's foundation was problematic, her future accomplishments would definitely be limited. Beiming Xue could not help but be swayed by Su Zimo's irrefutable logic. After hesitating for a moment, she followed his earlier actions and practiced the first move. Su Zimo shook his head gently and extended his leg, kicking Beiming Xue more than 10 times in succession all over body. Although Beiming Xue clearly saw Su Zimo kicking over, for some reason, she could not dodge at all. In a flash, she felt a sharp pain on her body. Instinctively, she changed her actions. The moment that action froze, her body surged with a hot sensation as though her body was burning and essence energy was fusing into her flesh. Instantly, she broke out in sweat. Chapter 13:29 1 year. Chapter 13:29 1 year. How could this be? Beiming Xue was shocked. That single action was much more effective than her repeated demonstration of the 9 actions. Could it be, as Mr. Xue said, that a single deviation in the 9 transformations of the martial Dao made a world of a difference? If every single action of hers could produce such a shocking effect, she might be able to break through to the 2nd transformation of the martial Dao, 5 Qi essence, after cultivating for a month or 2. Perhaps 3 years later, she might truly be able to cultivate a blood qi golden core and re-enter the core formation realm. A cold glint flashed through Beiming Xue's eyes when she thought about the expressions of Dong Fangxian, Dong Fangji, Nan Dongyu, and the others. She was already exuding a murderous aura at such a young age. Su Zimo nodded to himself. Do you remember the action earlier on? Yes. Beiming Xue nodded and repeated the move in front of Su Zimo. Su Zimo extended his leg once more and kicked 3 times in succession. They landed on Beiming Xue like lightning and she could not react at all. She felt a sharp pain on her body and took a deep breath. However, she clenched her teeth and remained silent. She knew that Su Zimo was helping her to correct her actions. Beiming Xue made dozens of mistakes during her first attempt. Su Zimo merely demonstrated once and Beiming Xue only had 3 mistakes left. It was rare for someone to have such a memory and talent. However, Su Zimo's expression was calm and he did not offer any encouragement. Beiming Xue had to experience unimaginable difficulties and obstacles if she wanted to cultivate the martial Dao. This was only the first step. After Beiming Xue familiarized herself with the first move, Su Zimo demonstrated the second move. Beiming Xue continued practicing. After a night, Su Zimo had already imparted all 9 moves of the first transformation to Beiming Xue. The 9 transformations of the martial Dao had already spread through the world. However, the results produced were different depending on whether or not one had guidance. Furthermore, the person who explained and imparted the Dao was the person who created the martial Dao. Given Su Zimo's cultivation and insight, it was more than enough for him to teach even Dharma-characteristic Dao lords, let alone Beiming Xue. If Su Zimo were to establish a sect, it would definitely not be weaker than the 108 upper sects of Tianhuang mainland. After imparting the first transformation of the martial Dao to Beiming Xue, Su Zimo no longer appeared and spent his time in seclusion, thinking of ways to dispel the life-severing curse. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. This day, Beiming Xue knocked and asked softly, "Mr. Su?" Su Zimo pushed the door open and looked at Beiming Xue. Nodding slightly, he said, "Not bad, you've already cultivated the first transformation to the perfected stage." Beiming Xue smiled as well. "It's all thanks to your guidance, Mr. Su." She knew very well that if not for Su Zimo, she might not have been able to cultivate the first transformation of the martial Dao to the perfected stage in a year, let alone a month. "I'll demonstrate the second transformation of the martial Dao to you. Take a good look." Arriving in the courtyard, Su Zimo demonstrated the 9 actions of the second transformation of the martial Dao, 5 Qi essence. Beiming Xue watched intently, not willing to miss a single detail. The foundation of the martial Dao is to constantly unlock one's potential. A person's body is a huge treasure with unlimited potential. The 5 organs of the human body can be called the 5 great divine treasures. By refining the 5 organs, one can obtain the divine qi of the 5 treasures and clear the 7 orifices. They can possess the power of universal sight and hearing. Their strength will increase exponentially and their stamina will be lasting. Their physiques will be so shocking that even 5 horses won't be able to tear them apart. Su Zimo imparted the essence and profoundness of the second transformation of the martial Dao to Beiming Xue without holding back. Anything she did not understand, Su Zimo would enlighten her by offering perfect pointers in simple terms. Beiming Xue could clearly sense that her body was undergoing significant changes daily. It was a complete transformation. 2 months later, she was at perfected 5 Qi essence. Her vision, hearing, smell and senses had even surpassed when she was at the Golden Core realm previously. The situation was way too terrifying. This was the second transformation of the martial Dao. Another 3 months passed. Third transformation of the martial Dao, perfected bronze skin steel bones. At this point of her cultivation, Beiming Xue's body was even stronger than when she was at Golden Core realm. She was invulnerable against weapons, water and fire. After 4 months, the 4th transformation of the martial Dao was perfected. After the 3rd and 4th transformations, Beiming Xue's body was now fused with toughness and gentleness. She was agile and her strength was comparable to pure-blooded ferocious beasts of the same level. The 9 transformations of the martial Dao had almost pushed Beiming Xue's body potential to its limits. Time flew and in the blink of an eye, Su Zimo had spent a year in Beiming town. For the past year, he spent most of his time resting in his room, attempting to connect to heaven and earth and remove the life-severing curse. However, there was no progress. Beiming Xue's cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. In just a year, she had already cultivated to the 5th transformation of the martial Dao, marrow cleansing. She was only a step away from the 6th transformation, the blood qi golden core. "Mr. Su, I've already cultivated to the 5th transformation of the martial Dao and I'm at the lead mercury amalgam blood realm. Can I attempt to condense a blood qi golden core now?" Beiming Xue was delighted. She had changed way too much in the past year. Others might not be able to sense it, but she knew that she had undergone a complete transformation in just a year. Although she had yet to condense her blood qi golden core, Beiming Xue believed that she would be able to secure victory against some golden cores given her current combat strength. "Lead mercury amalgam blood? You are not there yet." Su Zimo shook his head. "For anyone else, it's fine for them to cultivate to the lead mercury amalgam blood level. However, not for you. You have to cultivate further. The lead mercury amalgam blood level is only the greater mastery of marrow cleansing. The symbol of perfection is tsunami blood." Since Su Zimo intended to take Beiming Xue in as a disciple, he naturally wanted to help her establish a perfect foundation. There must be no sloppiness. Tsunami blood! Beiming Xue was shocked. She was a golden core in the past, and knew what tsunami blood was. But was that possible? Even in the entire cultivation world, not many people could cultivate to the tsunami blood realm, let alone the 3 aristocratic families. Tsunami blood is the limit of bloodline power. Can I do it? Beiming Xue had doubts as well. No. Su Zimo shook his head. Tsunami blood isn't the limit of a bloodline. Tsunami blood isn't the limit yet? Beiming Xue was shocked. Suddenly, a shout sounded from outside. Sister, sister! I'm back! A slightly excited voice sounded. Immediately after, a muscular young man barged into the courtyard with immense spirit energy surging around him. When he caught sight of Beiming Xue, he ran over excitedly. Sister, I've already formed a core and I'm a golden core now. Beiming Xue was only 13 years old. To be able to cultivate to the golden core realm at his age, his talent was indeed shocking. However, to Su Zimo, it might not be a good thing for Beiming Xue to advance to the golden core realm too early. Core formation was not to be underestimated, and it did not mean that one would be better the sooner they entered it. That was because there was a high chance that a golden core phenomenon could be created upon forming a core. The more one accumulated before forming a core, the greater the possibility of creating a golden core phenomenon, and the stronger the power of the phenomenon. Chapter 1330 Seaside. Chapter 1330 Seaside. That's great. Beiming Xue patted Beiming Xue on the shoulder gently. You're already at the golden core realm so quickly. You're even stronger than me back then. Hee, that's not all. Beiming Xue said mysteriously. Sister, move aside. I'll let you take a look. Beiming Xue retreated a few steps in confusion. Beiming Xue straightened his face and channeled his spirit energy. Instantly, a boundless ocean appeared behind him with an extremely cold aura. The temperature in the courtyard dipped. Golden core phenomenon! Beiming Xue exclaimed. Beiming Xue nodded and said proudly, Sister, I've cultivated this legacy phenomenon of our Beiming family, Beiming Ocean. I'll definitely shock everyone in this aristocratic family competition and take revenge for you, sister. Little brother, you must not be careless. Beiming Xue said hurriedly. Dongfang Xian and Dongfang Ji have both cultivated golden core phenomenons. Furthermore, they are 2 or 3 minor realms above you. You must not underestimate them. Sister, don't worry. My cultivation will definitely rise further in the next 2 years. Humph, wait and see. Beiming Xue harumphed coldly. Thereafter, he seemed to have noticed something and sized up Beiming Xue before saying in confusion. Sister, you seem to have changed quite a bit as well. Cultivating the martial Dao, one had no spirit energy, and their cultivation realm could not be seen. In Beiming Xue's eyes, Beiming Xue was still a mortal without spirit qi. However, the aura that she exuded inadvertently gave him a sense of pressure even as a golden core. I've also benefited immensely from cultivating the martial Dao in the past year. The siblings were focused on their cultivation, and it had been a year since they last met. Beiming Xue did not hide anything and shared her joy with her brother. Sister, are you still cultivating the martial Dao? Beiming Xue frowned slightly. In my opinion, that martial Dao is a complete scam. Sister, there's no need for you to waste time on it. Nonsense! Beiming Xue was a little displeased. In the past year, I've already cultivated to the 5th transformation of the martial Dao, marrow cleansing. Beiming Xue pouted his lips in disdain. Sister, I don't think there's any way out of cultivating the martial Dao. Think about it. Even if you can condense a blood qi golden core, you won't be able to create a golden core phenomenon. Your accomplishments will be limited. As for the 7th transformation, astral infusion, the 8th transformation, indestructible diamond, and even the dragon elephant force of the 9th transformation, I reckon that it must be a product of that fiend Desolate Marshal's imagination. There's no way he could have cultivated it successfully. There were some things that Beiming Xue said that were not wrong. Indeed, golden core phenomenons would not be born from cultivating the martial Dao. That was because golden core phenomenons were the epitome of spirit arts. The moment one formed a core and their spirit energy intersected with heaven and earth, golden core phenomenons would be formed. Cultivating the martial Dao required no spirit chi, and there was naturally no golden core phenomenon. Beiming Xue went silent and did not argue with Beiming Xue. Eh? Why are you still here? Beiming Xue swept his gaze and could not help but frown when he caught sight of Su Zimo, who was not far away. With a stern expression, he walked slowly before Su Zimo and exuded the might of a golden core to exert pressure gradually. Just who are you? What are your motives for coming to Beiming Town? Su Zimo merely lowered his head slightly and looked at the young man with interest. Although he could not use his spirit consciousness, his green lotus true body was still present, and the might of the golden core released by the young man was a complete joke to him. Little brother, don't be rude! Beiming Xue walked over quickly and stood in front of Beiming Xue. Go back to the main hall of the clan and cultivate. Don't bother about anything here. Although Beiming Xue was young and impetuous, he was extremely obedient towards Beiming Xue and never dared to go against her wishes. Consider yourself lucky, Beiming Xue said. If I find out that you harbor evil intentions towards the Beiming aristocratic family, I'll punish you severely even if my sister protects you. With that, he flicked his sleeves and left proudly. Mr. Su, my little brother is still young and is a child. Beiming Xue bowed to Su Zimo. Let me apologize to you on his behalf. Su Zimo smiled and would naturally not stoop to Beiming Xue's level. He was meticulous. When he saw Beiming Xue frowning slightly as though she had something on her mind, he asked, Why? Are you feeling disappointed that you can't cultivate a golden core phenomenon with the martial Dao? Beiming Xue was silent for a moment before nodding. In her opinion, it did not matter even if she could condense a blood chi golden core, she would still lose against cultivators with golden core phenomenons such as Dongfang Ji. Golden core phenomenons are merely the epitome of spirit arts and are not invincible, Su Zimo replied indifferently. As long as you are strong enough, you can dispel it with ease. As the saying goes, one-sided strength is everything. If you can cultivate to the point of astral infusion and indestructible diamond, you will be able to suppress most golden core phenomenons with your body alone. If you're able to cultivate to dragon elephant force, you will be the #1 perfected being. Su Zimo was the only one who dared to say something like that. He was also the only one who was qualified. Beiming Xue's eyes gradually lit up. Su Zimo continued. Furthermore, it's true that there's no golden core phenomenon in the martial Dao. However, there's a bloodline phenomenon in the martial Dao. The peak of the bloodline is the bloodline phenomenon. Bloodline phenomenon. Beiming Xue murmured softly. Before long, she took a deep breath and said excitedly, I got it, Mr. Su. Thank you for your guidance. Su Zimo nodded. Suddenly, his expression changed, as though he sensed something. Mr. Su? Sensing Su Zimo's abnormality, Beiming Xue probed. It's nothing much, go and cultivate. Su Zimo waved it off and sent Beiming Xue away with a look of joy in his eyes. Earlier on, he had actually sensed the existence of his dragon true body once more. The dragon true body woke up slowly and felt a wooden bed beneath him. He opened his eyes and looked at the roof. This was not a wild current of the void. There would definitely not be any wooden roofs or beds in the void currents. The dragon true body did not speak, nor was he in a hurry to get up. First, he sensed the condition of his body. The bloodline of the dragon true body was indeed powerful, and its regeneration capabilities were shocking. Although he was severely injured in the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, he was still fine and his body recovered without any injuries. The green lotus true body was even troubled by the life-severing curse. However, there was no such issue for the dragon true body. Back in Heaven and Earth Valley, the spirit turtle in his consciousness had already suppressed the power of the life-severing curse completely. The dragon true body's ears twitched before he sniffed again. He could vaguely hear the sound of a tsunami crashing on the reef. Furthermore, he could smell the stench of seawater beneath his nose. Where am I? Could I have been teleported to the seaside? The dragon true body sat up slowly from the bed. Just as he was about to leave and check out where he was, his gaze shifted and he could not help but feel shocked. There was someone sitting in the room. However, he did not realize it at all. Chapter 1331 Divine Phoenix Island. Chapter 1331 Divine Phoenix Island. It was a young woman with watery eyes and black hair that fell like a waterfall. She wore a red robe and sat in the room motionlessly, looking at the dragon true body. Su Zimo was dazed and almost mistook her for Dai. But soon, he realized that although this woman was beautiful, her aura was way too different from Dai's. Dai exuded a powerful, confident, and arrogant aura. It was as if she looked down on the world and was insufferably arrogant. No one could compare with her. However, Su Zimo was still shocked when his spirit consciousness swept past the young woman. Conjoined Body Realm. This young woman was actually a conjoined body mighty figure. If a conjoined body mighty figure were to harm him while he was unconscious, he would be a corpse right now. However, Su Zimo was certain that he had never seen this woman before. He could not sense any hostility in her eyes. On the contrary, the young woman looked at him strangely. She seemed to be scrutinizing him in a curious and unusual manner. "You're awake," the young woman said slowly. "Who are you? Where am I?" Su Zimo asked in a deep voice without letting his guard down. A year had passed since the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley. Everyone knew that he had offended the major sects and factions of the Immortal, Buddhist, and Fiend sects, and was enemies with the primordial 6 races. No matter where he was, it was not safe. After all, no sect or faction in Tianhuang mainland would dare to take him in at the risk of becoming enemies with super sects, or even the primordial races. "You don't have to worry about any danger. Nobody can hurt you here," the young woman said indifferently. Su Zimo was momentarily stunned. Pausing for a moment, she said slowly, "This is Divine Phoenix Island." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat at the mention of Divine Phoenix Island. Earlier on, he thought of many possibilities. However, he had not expected that he would have left Tianhuang mainland and arrived at Divine Phoenix Island, which was millions of miles away above the South Sea. Divine Phoenix Island, one of the super factions and 2 islands. The other island was Punglai Island, located on the East Sea. Even with the major transference talisman, it was difficult for Su Zimo to cross such a long distance from Tianhuang mainland to reach Divine Phoenix Island. The ancient teleportation formation was the only possibility. Of course, the reason why Su Zimo was so shocked was not only because he was teleported to Divine Phoenix Island. More than that, it was because he had a deep relationship with Divine Phoenix Island the moment he started cultivating. His right hand was the Divine Phoenix bone. In the cultivation world, it was said that an undying Divine Phoenix fell onto Divine Phoenix Island, giving rise to the Divine Phoenix bone. Therefore, in the elementary ancient battlefield, many cultivators once thought that he was the successor of Divine Phoenix Island. Additionally, Divine Phoenix Island was established by the Saber Emperor. Legend has it that in the ancient era, the Saber Emperor escaped from Tianhuang mainland and headed to the South Sea. That was the reason why the Sword Dao reigned supreme across Tianhuang mainland right now. Before the Saber Emperor left, he left behind his inheritance in Tianhuang mainland, the Saber Mountain Spirit Sea in the ancient battlefield. At the same time, Su Zimo obtained the Sea Calming Manual. Later on, Yen Beichen imparted the title manual to him as well. This meant that he had obtained the complete inheritance of the Saber Emperor. To think that he would step foot onto this land one day. "How do I address you, fellow Taoist?" the young woman asked. Su Zimo's heart stirred. The fact that the young lady did not know him meant that the news of the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley had not spread to Divine Phoenix Island yet. After all, Divine Phoenix Island was far away in the South Sea and was millions of miles away from Tianhuang mainland. It was only logical that they were ignorant about everything in the world. At the same time, Su Zimo felt something odd when the young woman addressed him as such. She was a conjoined body mighty figure, but he was only a Dharma characteristic Tao Lord. Under normal circumstances, the term fellow Taoist should be referring to someone of the same cultivation realm or seniority. The attitude of the woman towards him was a little strange. Su Zimo pondered for a moment. "I'm Long Mo." Right after, he asked, "How should I address you, fellow Taoist?" "I'm Moing, the Saber Attendant of Divine Phoenix Island," the woman replied. "The Saber Attendant?" Su Zimo was stunned. Moing explained. "In every generation, Divine Phoenix Island will have a Saber Attendant that will cultivate and guard by the side of the Dragon Soul Saber. The Saber Attendant will serve the wielder of the Dragon Soul Saber as their master." "Dragon Soul Saber?" Su Zimo was even more puzzled. Moing explained patiently. "The Dragon Soul Saber was created by the Saber Emperor personally killing an ancestral dragon in the ancient era and retrieving his dragon bones. The metal was cooled using the coldness of the deep sea and fused with the soul of the ancestral dragon. This Dragon Soul Saber is a Khanate Dermic treasure and is the utmost treasure left behind for Divine Phoenix Island by the Saber Emperor. An ancestral dragon was killed with his bones and soul extracted to forge into a saber." Su Zimo was secretly speechless. Such methods were truly terrifying. As expected of the Saber Emperor. He thought for a moment and asked again. "In that case, it must be difficult to wield the Dragon Soul Saber." Moing nodded. "Only those with the Divine Phoenix Bone can subdue the Dragon Soul Saber." Su Zimo's expression changed slightly. Moing said, "It's no secret that you have the Divine Phoenix Bone with you. If not for the existence of the Divine Phoenix Bone, the experts of the island would not have been able to sense your existence, let alone save you forcefully from the void currents." Su Zimo was enlightened. It was not an accident that he was teleported to Divine Phoenix Island. It was because of the existence of the Divine Phoenix Bone that the experts of Divine Phoenix Island noticed something unusual and rescued him from the wild currents in the void. "You mean to say that I might be able to wield the Dragon Soul Saber?" Su Zimo asked again. "That's a possibility," Moing said. "However, your cultivation realm is too low and you're only at the Dharma characteristic realm. It'll probably be difficult for you to subdue the Dragon Soul Saber. This Khanate Dermic weapon has the soul of an ancestral dragon and is extremely violent. Ordinary cultivators won't even be able to approach it." After a brief pause, she changed the topic and continued. "However, you're the successor of that senior. If you advance to the conjoined body realm, you still have a chance of wielding the Dragon Soul Saber." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he could tell that she was implying something deeper. "That senior?" He glared at Moing and asked slowly. "Who are you referring to?" "I don't know." Moing shook her head with a hint of respect in her eyes as she recalled. "All I know is that she's a woman in a blood-colored robe." Upon hearing that, Su Zimo no longer had any doubts. Daiyu had been to Divine Phoenix Island. Back when he was severely injured, Daiyu left for a period of time. Now, her traces during that period of time had gradually become clearer. She had been to the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley to suppress the blood face and snatch the Siraka flower. She came to the Divine Phoenix Island as well and might have suppressed others to snatch the Divine Phoenix Bone. Those two utmost treasures were the two gifts given to Su Zimo by Daiyu. They played an important role in his cultivation path. "I've never seen a woman as strong and arrogant as her. Unparalleled. Even though all the experts of Divine Phoenix Island were alerted, nobody could stop her." Mo Ying's voice became increasingly agitated. In fact, Su Zimo caught sight of an inexplicable fervor and fanatic admiration in her eyes. Chapter 1332 Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix. Chapter 1332 Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix. With just a few words from Mo Ying, the image of a bloodied ruler overlooking the world and sweeping through Divine Phoenix Island with overwhelming dominance flashed through Su Zimo's mind. Su Zimo was silent. Although Daiyu had only appeared briefly at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley, The red-headed ghost was still wary and fearful at the mention of her. Amoing lowered her head slightly with a slightly blushed face. She tugged at her red robes and said, "Ever since that day, I've also grown to like wearing red robes. However, I'm far inferior compared to that senior." Su Zimo was stunned. Amoing did not even know who Dai Yu was, or even her name, and yet she was completely charmed. From the looks of it, she would not hesitate even if Dai Yu wanted her to die. However, Su Zimo was still puzzled. Logically speaking, when Dai Yu arrived at Divine Phoenix Island and snatched away the Divine Phoenix bone, she even fought with the island's experts. The people of Divine Phoenix Island should hate him to the core. Although Monk Yuan Bei and the red-headed ghost similarly had an utmost treasure snatched away by Dai Yu, it was understandable why they didn't hold a grudge against Su Zimo. That was because Dai Yu arrived at the Dragon Burial Valley and discovered the existence of the Blood Face. It was equivalent to helping Monk Yuan Bei and the red-headed ghost to get rid of a huge calamity. However, what about Divine Phoenix Island? Could there be a Blood Face at Divine Phoenix Island as well? Su Zimo tried asking. After that blood-robed woman descended, did she discover any hidden troubles on this island and help to resolve them? No. Amoing shook her head, somewhat confused as to why Su Zimo asked that. She said, "When that senior arrived, she wanted to take away the Divine Phoenix bone right away. However, the experts on the island naturally would not permit it, and both parties fought. In the end, the island's experts suffered a crushing defeat." Su Zimo was not surprised by this outcome. Amoing continued, "That senior said that the Divine Phoenix bone did not belong to Divine Phoenix Island and that it was a belonging of her friend." Her friend? Su Zimo was a little confused. Amoing said, "Actually, Divine Phoenix Island originally had a bone left behind by a Divine Phoenix. However, about 200 years ago, another undying Divine Phoenix fell from the island." 200 years ago? Su Zimo went deep into thought. He also found Dai Yu outside Pingyang town around that time. He related if the two matters were related. When the Divine Phoenix fell onto the island, it was already severely injured and on the brink of death. Therefore, it burned itself and underwent nirvana. Legend has it that the both genders of the Divine Phoenix race possess the ability to undergo nirvana. Once they succeeded, they could revive and their combat strength would become even stronger. Of course, if the rebirth through nirvana failed, they would die and leave only one thing behind. The male Divine Phoenix would leave behind a drop of essence blood. The female Divine Phoenix would leave behind a bone, the Divine Phoenix bone. Amoing continued, "Unfortunately, the Divine Phoenix's rebirth failed and there was only a Divine Phoenix bone left in its ashes. That bone was the Divine Phoenix bone that the senior took away." Su Zimo exhaled deeply. At that point, many things were clear. If Dai Yu was right, the friend she was referring to should be the undying Divine Phoenix that died. If that was the case, the Divine Phoenix bone in Su Zimo's right hand should be the bone left behind by the Divine Phoenix's nirvana death. The reason why Divine Phoenix Island was not hostile towards him was partly because Dai Yu was powerful. At the same time, it was also because the Divine Phoenix bone did not belong to Divine Phoenix Island to begin with. Amoing said, "Actually, Divine Phoenix Island has been waiting for you. The experts on the island know that the successor of that senior with the Divine Phoenix bone will definitely come here." Su Zimo thought for a moment. "According to what you said, Divine Phoenix Island had another Divine Phoenix bone previously?" "Yes." Amoing nodded. "However, that Divine Phoenix bone already has an owner, our island's mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. Another conjoined body mighty figure. Furthermore, it was a conjoined body mighty figure with the Divine Phoenix bone," Amoing said. "However, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix has not been able to subdue the Dragon Soul Saber all these years." Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. The Dragon Soul Saber was indeed rather amazing if even a conjoined body mighty figure could not subdue it. "Take a rest first," Amoing said. "When you're feeling better, I'll take you to meet the Island Master. He was the one who pulled you out from the Void Currents personally." Su Zimo nodded. "I'm fine now." I can pay a personal visit to the island master of Divine Phoenix Island to express my thanks personally. Right then, Su Zimo frowned and shifted his gaze towards the entrance of the room. For some reason, he could not hear any sounds. However, his spirit perception stirred. It was as though someone was approaching and right at the entrance. At that moment, Emoing was sitting opposite Su Zimo. She was even closer to the door, but she did not realize anything. What's wrong? When Emoing saw the change in Su Zimo's expression, she looked towards the entrance instinctively as well. Dong! 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 Someone knocked on the door. Who is it? Emoing stood up and asked. It's me. A man's voice sounded, gentle and magnetic. Emoing stood up and opened the door, bowing slightly to the intruder. Greetings, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. The other person from Divine Phoenix Island with the Divine Phoenix bone. Su Zimo's gaze landed on mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. The man looked to be in his 30s and wore a white shirt. He was scholarly and had a warm expression as he looked towards Su Zimo as well. Their gazes met in midair. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix nodded slightly and smiled at Su Zimo in a friendly manner. Su Zimo stood up as well and cupped his fists towards mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. I'm Long Emo. Greetings, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. Thank you for receiving me on your island. My island? No. Since you possess the Divine Phoenix bone, you're someone of Divine Phoenix Island as well. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix smiled. There's no need to stand on courtesy upon reaching the island. You can just treat Divine Phoenix Island as your home. Su Zimo smiled as well. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, I have a presumptuous request. Brother Long Mo, can you take out your Divine Phoenix bone and let me take a look? Frowning slightly, Su Zimo hesitated for a moment before extending his right hand. The bone palm of my right hand is the Divine Phoenix bone. There was no need to hide that. The eyes of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix lit up as he marveled. That's incredible, he praised. To think that there's such a method in the world that can attach the Divine Phoenix bone to the tendons, bones, and bloodline of a human. This can truly be considered as a work of God. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix flipped his palm and held out a fiery red bone fragment. Brother Long Mo, please take a look. This is my Divine Phoenix bone. Although the Divine Phoenix bone was an item of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix, it was not connected to his bloodline, and could only be considered as an utmost treasure in his possession. He seemed excited and asked, I wonder where that senior is right now. Can I have the honor of paying her a visit? Chapter 1333 Smooth. Chapter 1333 Smooth. In the eyes of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix, Su Zimo saw a look of reverence and anticipation. However, for some reason, a strange feeling rose in his heart. He shook his head. She left a long time ago. Left? She hasn't returned all these years? Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix asked again. At the side, Emoing looked hopeful as well. Su Zimo shook his head. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix was disappointed and said regrettably, I went out to explore and was not on the island that day, so I did not manage to meet that senior. I was in awe when I heard the descriptions from the cultivators on the island. To think that I would never get the chance to witness the grandeur of that senior again. What a pity! He swept his gaze across Su Zimo and changed the topic with a smile. If I'm not wrong, Brother Long Mo, you can't be considered as a human anymore, right? Normally, the bloodline of the dragon true body would be hidden and dormant, flowing slowly without revealing any demonic chi. However, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix was indeed sharp and noticed something unusual. Su Zimo nodded and did not lie. Divine Phoenix Island was one of the 2 islands and was a superfaction of the cultivation world. It was ranked alongside the 9 immortal sects, 7 fiend sects, and 6 Buddhist monasteries, and there were many experts on the island. This matter could not be hidden for sure. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix smiled. Brother Long Mo, don't worry. Divine Phoenix Island isn't like the immortal, Buddhist, and fiend sects that can't tolerate fiend demons. Divine Phoenix Island accepts all the different races, and not all the cultivators on this island are humans either. There are also millions of demons, beasts, fishes, turtles, and sea monsters. All living beings are equal, and we treat everyone equally. Oh? Su Zimo was shocked. Among the immortal, Buddhist, and fiend sects, there was only a single identity for demons to exist. They were reared by humans as mounts or spirit beasts. No sect would accept a demon as their successor. Killing demons was the mission and self-proclaimed purpose of many orthodox cultivators. That was also the reason why many sects and factions attacked Su Zimo brazenly in the name of slaying evil. In fact, many sects even disregarded their dignity and sent cultivators one or two major cultivation realms above Su Zimo to kill him at any cost. Su Zimo had not expected that there would be such a faction in the cultivation world that would accommodate the 10,000 races. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix slanted his body slightly and whispered to Su Zimo in a mysterious manner. To be honest, Brother Long Mo, although I was originally a human, half of the blood that flows through my body right now isn't from the human race either. Ha! Su Zimo exchanged glances and smiled. Their relationship seemed to have gotten closer. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix was smooth and experienced. Although he was a conjoined body Mighty Figure, he did not put on any airs at all and had an ability to make people lower their guard and trust him. However, for some reason, the impression that Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix gave Su Zimo was inferior to Mo-ing, who was silent at the side. It was as though Mo-ing was more down to earth. Of course, it was only logical for Su Zimo to be wary of anyone since he had just arrived at Divine Phoenix Island and was unfamiliar with the place. Brother Long Mo, how's your body recovering? Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix asked again. Su Zimo smiled. I'm fine now. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix burst into laughter. That's perfect. Let me call the shots to take you around Divine Phoenix Island and show you the sights of the place as well as introduce you to the culture here. How about that, Brother Long Mo? Initially, Su Zimo wanted to pay a visit to the island master of Divine Phoenix Island. However, he could not reject the enthusiasm of Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix and nodded in agreement. It was good to explore Divine Phoenix Island as well and to have a rough understanding of it. It wouldn't be too late to visit the island master of Divine Phoenix Island thereafter. Brother Long Mo, please! Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix opened the door and made an inviting gesture. I wouldn't dare. Senior Heavenly Phoenix, please. Su Zimo gave way. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix no longer pushed back and left the room first. Without much effort, he floated and arrived in midair. Su Zimo and Mo-ing followed closely behind. After leaving the room, a damp and salty smell wafted over. It was the smell of seawater, and the roaring sounds in his ears were even clearer. Arriving in midair, Su Zimo looked over and could not help but reveal a look of shock. They hovered above a gigantic island that spanned 1,000 kilometers and was extremely huge. However, such a vast island seemed extremely tiny against the boundless and magnificent ocean surface. Su Zimo had seen the Spirit Sea before and comprehended the Tao within. He had also seen the 1,000-year Blood Sea and encountered fatal danger within. However, up till this point of his cultivation, this was the first time he had seen a truly massive ocean. It was much more majestic than any Spirit Sea or the 1,000-year Blood Sea. The waves rumbled loudly. The deep blue surface of the ocean rose with massive waves surging over. Beneath the surface of the ocean, countless sea monsters, fiend demons, and terrifying threats lurked. Everything aside, the might of the ocean was enough to shock one's heart. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind as he gazed at the ocean. He had a new understanding of the tidal manual and sea calming manual. Mo-ing noticed this and nodded to herself. This was a state of enlightenment. If it lasted for a long time, it would provide unimaginable benefits to one's cultivation. Many cultivators underwent breakthroughs of minor or even major cultivation realms in their state of enlightenment. Brother Long Mo, look over there! Right then, Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix nudged Su Zimo gently and pointed into the distance with a smile. Those are the guards of Divine Phoenix Island. There are not only humans, but also demons as well. With that nudge from mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix, Su Zimo snapped out of his state of enlightenment. Emoing frowned in pity. She did not think that mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix did it intentionally. However, a state of enlightenment was rare. Now that Su Zimo was awake, she did not know when he would be able to enter the same state again. Su Zimo was expressionless. Actually, his enlightenment state earlier on was very shallow, and the things he comprehended were limited as well. Even without the disruption of the mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix, it was impossible for him to break through from the Dharma characteristic realm and enter the conjoint body realm. Following the gaze of the mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix, Su Zimo saw a group of cultivators riding on gigantic seabirds patrolling around Divine Phoenix Island. Every cultivator was at the nascent soul realm. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix led Su Zimo forward, as though he was completely oblivious to everything that happened earlier on, and continued to introduce the culture of Divine Phoenix Island. When the three of them passed by the Divine Phoenix Island guards, the latter all descended from the seabirds and bowed respectfully at the sight of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. One could sense that mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix had an extremely high status in Divine Phoenix Island. Right then, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix said in a seemingly casual manner, "Emoing, there's nothing much. You can go on with your work first. It's enough for me to accompany Brother Long Mo." Emoing hesitated for a moment before shaking her head. "It's fine. I'm the Saber attendant of Divine Phoenix Island and I have nothing much to do. I'll just accompany the two of you." Chapter 1334 Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island. Chapter 1334 Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix said, "Speaking of the Saber attendant, have you heard of the Dragon Soul Saber, Brother Long Mo?" "I just heard about it as well," Su Zimo replied. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix pointed to a circular building that towered into the clouds not far away. "That's the Dragon Soul Hall. The Dragon Soul Saber is suppressed inside. Brother Long Mo, you have the Divine Phoenix Bone and might be able to wield the Dragon Soul Saber. Since you're already here, why don't you give it a try?" Only 2 people on Divine Phoenix Island possessed the Divine Phoenix Bone. The Dragon Soul Saber could only be subdued with the Divine Phoenix Bone. In other words, from a certain perspective, Su Zimo was an opponent of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. But now, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix did not express any hostility. Instead, he took the initiative to invite in a magnanimous manner. "Should we pay a visit to the Island Master first?" Emoing frowned slightly. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix smiled gently and said, "There's no conflict between the two. I can send someone to inform the Island Master that we'll meet in Dragon Soul Hall. Who knows, Brother Long Mo might truly be able to wield the Dragon Soul Saber at that time and the Island Master can witness it personally. Le Ji, inform the Island Master that I'm heading to the Dragon Soul Hall with Brother Long Mo. Please ask him to head over." Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix waved his hand and directed a guard of Divine Phoenix Island not far away. "Understood." The Divine Phoenix Island guard left without hesitation. "Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix, Long Mo is only at the Dharma characteristic realm and it'll be difficult for him to wield the Dragon Soul Saber even if he possesses the Divine Phoenix Bone," Emoing said. "I suggest that it won't be too late to try after he enters the conjoint body realm. It doesn't matter to give it a try. What if he succeeds?" Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix rejected Emoing's suggestion indifferently. "But," Emoing wanted to argue again. After all, the Dragon Soul Saber was extremely terrifying and berserk. If he could not withstand it, he would face immense danger and might even be severely injured. "Let's go along with Senior Heavenly Phoenix's wishes. I'm keen on taking a look as well," Su Zimo agreed with a fake smile. Emoing sighed internally with a hint of worry. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix burst into laughter. "Brother Long Mo is truly straightforward. Let's go." He led the way and transformed into a streak of light, speeding towards Dragon Soul Hall. Su Zimo and Emoing followed closely behind. Su Zimo gazed at the back of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix in deep thought. two guards stood guard at the entrance of Dragon's Soul Hall. One of them was tall and the other was short. Both of them were at the Dharma characteristic realm. "Greetings, Senior Brother Heavenly Phoenix." The two guards bowed respectfully. "Jingxing, Jingming, get up. There's no need for formalities." Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix nodded slightly. "Are you two brothers on duty today?" "Yes." The tall one on the left was Jingxing. "Senior Brother Heavenly Phoenix, are you going to attempt to subdue the Dragon's Soul Saber again? This is an important matter on the island." At that moment, many cultivators on the island gradually gathered when they saw Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix and two other people arrive before the Dragon's Soul Hall. "It's not me, it's Brother Long Mo." Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix pointed at Su Zimo. "Brother Long Mo has a divine phoenix bone as well. He's the one making an attempt this time round." Dao Lords Jingming and Jingxing looked at Su Zimo with hostility and rejection. "Fufu, you want to wield the Dragon Soul Saber at the Dharma characteristic realm? I don't know if you're ignorant or arrogant. Do you think that you can subdue the Dragon Soul Saber just because you have the divine phoenix bone? I can only say that you're way too naive." The Dharma characteristic Dao Lords, Jingming and Jingxing, did not conceal their thoughts and mocked without restraint. Su Zimo smiled without replying. The two Dharma characteristic Dao Lords were not scheming and said whatever they thought. However, they were candid and did not pose much of a threat to Su Zimo. "Both of you, shut up!" Moing frowned and hollered softly. Although they faced a conjoined body Mighty Figure, the two Dharma characteristic Dao Lords, Jingming and Jingxing, did not show any fear. Jingxing was a little indignant. He's an outsider and yet he's trying to wield the Dragon Soul Saber the moment he steps foot onto Divine Phoenix Island? What is he trying to do? Is he trying to outshine Senior Brother Heavenly Phoenix? Don't be rude! Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix berated the two of them as well. I was the one who invited Brother Long Mo here. There's no need for the two of you to say anything. He's not an outsider. Suddenly, a voice sounded from afar. By the time everyone looked over, the intruder had already arrived at the entrance of the Dragon's Soul Hall. He wore blue robes sown with raging tide currents, and looked to be in his middle years, exuding the might of someone who had been in power for a long time. "Greetings, Island Master!" Moing, Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix and the others bowed and responded in unison. "The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island." Su Zimo's expression turned serious as he bowed hurriedly as well. "Greetings, Island Master, I am Long Mo. Thank you for your life-saving grace." The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island nodded and swept his gaze past Jingming and Jingxing before turning to the other cultivators who were approaching. "Since Long Mo has a Divine Phoenix bone, he shall be deemed as someone of Divine Phoenix Island and nobody is to see him as an outsider." The words of the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island acknowledged Su Zimo. Right from the beginning, Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix did not say anything. He merely smiled and nodded, as though he agreed with the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island. "Let's go. Since we're already at the Dragon Soul Hall, let's enter and take a look." The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island glanced at Su Zimo and instructed. "If you can't withstand it, don't force yourself. At the very least, if you retreat in time, nothing will go wrong." Su Zimo nodded. The doors of the Dragon's Soul Hall opened and a shockingly malevolent aura surged forth, causing the expressions of many Divine Phoenix Island cultivators to change. This was the ancestral dragon malevolent chi of the Dragon Soul Saber, and was extremely powerful. If they were too close, the malevolent chi would be enough to kill Dharma characteristic Dao Lords. However, Su Zimo's expression was calm. It was a familiar aura that made him feel close. The bloodline of the dragon race in his body was restless. Su Zimo smiled. Initially, he was unsure about this Dragon Soul Saber. But now, he truly wanted to give it a shot. Notwithstanding the strength of the Dragon Soul Saber, the fact that he would be able to gain the undying fealty of a conjoined body Mighty Figure just by wielding it was worth the try. Pausing for a moment, the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island led the way before many cultivators entered. They walked along a long corridor and before long, Their vision cleared up. Up ahead was a gigantic secret chamber. There were at least 100 thick chains mounted on the four walls of the secret chamber. On the end of the chains was a long saber. The saber was snow white all over, and one could clearly see that there was a section of the dragon race's spine in the middle that was tough, powerful, and unshakable. Dragon chi coiled around the saber, and was almost corporeal. Dragon Soul Saber. The fact that the Dragon Soul Saber was suppressed here by 100 chains was proof of how terrifying that saber was. Clang! Clang! Sensing that someone was approaching, the blade of the Dragon Soul Saber buzzed and trembled. Suddenly, a violent and sharp saber chi burst forth and spread in all directions. Chapter 1335 Dragon Soul Saber. Chapter 1335 Dragon Soul Saber. Many cultivators stopped in their tracks the moment they entered the hall. If they took another step forward, they would have to endure the sharp saber chi of the Dragon Soul Saber. The Dragon Soul Saber was extremely domineering. Although it was locked here, any living being that entered its domain would be attacked wildly by it. Cultivation did not matter, even conjoined body mighty figures and half-martial ancestors were no exceptions. Long mo, go on. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island nodded slightly, indicating for Su Zimo to head up. Su Zimo nodded and began advancing towards the Dragon Soul Saber. Jing Ning surveyed his surroundings and asked, "Everyone, guess how far can Long Mo go? I reckon that he won't be able to endure it by the time he's 50 feet away from the Dragon Soul Saber." "Yes, 50 feet is the limit. Any more than that and Dharma characteristic Dao Lords will die. However, Long Mo has the Divine Phoenix Bone, so I reckon he can make it to 30 feet. It'll be impossible for him to get closer than that." "That's right. Back when Senior Brother Heavenly Phoenix was at the Dharma characteristic realm, he could only reach within 30 feet as well." The cultivators discussed softly. Su Zimo had already entered the attack range of the Dragon Soul Saber. However, even when the saber chi struck the dragon true body, it could not stop him in his tracks. Su Zimo's back was facing the crowd and the smile in his eyes intensified. If it was any other Khanate Amos treasure that mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix who possessed the Divine Phoenix Bone could not subdue, there was a high chance that Su Zimo would not be able to either. However, it was different for the Dragon Soul Saber. The blade of the Dragon Soul Saber used the bones and soul of an ancestral dragon as the foundation. In the Dragon Bone Valley, when Su Zimo underwent the baptism and awakened his innate divine powers, the ancestral dragon had already submitted when it sensed the taboo bloodline in him. In fact, even the innate divine power, the ancestral dragon divine pillar, was imparted to Su Zimo. Could the ancestral dragon in this Dragon Soul Saber defend against the aura of a taboo? 50 feet. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo was within 50 feet. However, he showed no signs of stopping. To be precise, his footsteps had been exactly the same the entire time. It was as if they had been accurately measured. Even his speed was the same, as if he was taking a leisure stroll. The sharp and violent saber chi in the eyes of outsiders did not have any lethality when they struck the dragon true body. They turned into streams of ancestral dragon chi and surged into Su Zimo's body. 40 feet. 30 feet. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo was only 30 feet away from the Dragon Soul Saber. Jing Ming and Jing Xing's expressions changed slightly. The discussions in the crowd gradually died down as well as they fixed their gazes on the figure walking towards the Dragon Soul Saber. Only mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix had a relaxed smile. He knew that it was impossible for Dharma characteristic Dao Lords to wield the Dragon Soul Saber. 20 feet. 10 feet. 5 feet. Su Zimo was within reach of the Dragon Soul Saber. This? Mo Ying's eyes shone brightly with anticipation. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island narrowed his eyes as well, as though he was waiting for something. A smile was still on the face of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. However, his smile seemed to have turned a little stiff. Su Zimo looked at the Dragon Soul Saber not far away and extended his right hand slowly, grabbing the handle of the saber. The moment Su Zimo gripped the handle of the Dragon Soul Saber, a loud and authoritative dragon roar sounded from the saber. Immediately after, a powerful chi of the ancestral dragon surged into Su Zimo's flesh through the handle. Pang! 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 The chains on the four walls snapped and countless gravel rolled down, engulfing Su Zimo's figure in a terrifying manner. A powerful and terrifying saber chi condensed into a saber that surged into the skies like an ancestral dragon. Boom! The entire secret chamber was sliced into two by that saber instantly. The crowd was shocked. Everyone, retreat! Long Emo was slashed by the Dragon Soul Saber and is already dead! Jingming exclaimed. The cultivators retreated. The only ones remaining on the spot were the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island, Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix and Mo-ing. Their cultivation realms were high, and the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island was even a half-martial Ancestor expert. They could see everything clearly. All three of their gazes were fixed on the secret chamber before them. The cultivators seemed to have realized something as well and stopped in their tracks, looking over with widened eyes. The dust dispersed. A figure gradually appeared before everyone. Long Emo isn't dead? Jingming was confused. The situation seemed as though the entire world was about to be destroyed. Yet Long Emo was still alive even though he was at the eye of the storm. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix narrowed his eyes. His gaze landed on Su Zimo's right hand. There was a long saber in his hands. The snow-white blade and dragon bone of the saber could be seen clearly. Dragon Soul Saber. Long Emo had succeeded. The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island let out a long sigh, as though a huge weight had been lifted off his shoulders. Mo-ing was relieved as well and looked delighted. Impossible! Jingming shrieked and pointed at the Dragon Soul Saber in Su Zimo's hands, saying incoherently, This Dragon Soul Saber! It's impossible! You're at the Dharma characteristic realm! It's impossible! The cultivators widened their eyes in shock as well. It had been tens of thousands of years since the previous wielder of the Dragon Soul Saber. To think that someone would finally regain control of the Dragon Soul Saber in this generation. However, this person was not Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix who was in the hearts of everyone, but an outsider. A momentary gloominess flashed through the eyes of Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix. This scene had truly exceeded his expectations. In fact, he felt as though he had lifted a stone and smashed it on his own feet. Su Zimo turned around and smiled with the Dragon Soul Saber in his hands. It's all thanks to Senior Heavenly Phoenix's kind invitation today that I'm lucky enough to wield this Dragon Soul Saber. The corners of Heavenly Phoenix's mouth twitched as he forced a smile as well. The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island raised his head slightly and declared, Since the Dragon Soul Saber now has a master, I can announce something. Long Mo shall become Divine Phoenix Islands. Island Master! The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island was interrupted before he could finish. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix said in a deep voice, Actually, I'm here because I want to try and see if I can subdue the Dragon Soul Saber as well. I hope that you'll give me a chance, Island Master. That's right! Jingming shouted immediately. Senior Brother Heavenly Phoenix hasn't tried it yet. If he can subdue the Dragon Soul Saber as well, it should belong to him. Yes. Many cultivators nodded in agreement. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix had resided in Divine Phoenix Island and had a stable foundation and high prestige. He was naturally not someone an outsider like Su Zimo could compare to. That's against the rules, Mo-ing said resolutely. Whoever wields the Dragon Soul Saber will be the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. No one else will be qualified. When he heard that, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. To think that there was such a meaning to wielding the Dragon Soul Saber. The wielder of the Dragon Soul Saber would be the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. It was no wonder why the cultivators of Divine Phoenix Island had such a huge reaction. Most people would be indignant if an outsider like him were to become the young master of Divine Phoenix Island right after arriving. The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island looked at Su Zimo with a conflicted expression. Su Zimo smiled and walked towards mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. He handed the Dragon Soul Saber over in reverse. It's alright. Of course, you can try, Senior Heavenly Phoenix. That's good as well. The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island nodded. That will be more fair. If both of you are able to subdue the Dragon Soul Saber, we'll find another way to determine the winner. Chapter 1336 Victory is Decided. Chapter 1336 Victory is Decided. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix took a deep breath and received the Dragon Soul Saber. Although he had tried to subdue the Dragon Soul Saber many times over the years, he did not dare to be careless now. The Dragon Soul Saber was initially silent when it was in Su Zimo's hands. However, after mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix took over, streams of violent saber chi burst forth. Ancestral dragon chi filled the air, and the saber trembled wildly. The expression of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix changed slightly as he hollered softly. Silence! He flipped his palm and revealed his Divine Phoenix Bone. Channeling dermic powers, the Divine Phoenix Bone turned red and transparent instantly, as though it was burned through. Go! Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix gripped the Divine Phoenix Bone and shone it towards the Dragon Soul Saber in his right hand. Instantly, a flare burst forth from the Divine Phoenix Bone with a scorching heat that seemed like it could incinerate all living beings and landed on the Dragon Soul Saber. Su Zimo was very familiar with the aura of the flare. It was exactly the same as the Divine Phoenix Bone in his right hand. Roar! Against the Divine Phoenix's flames, the Dragon Soul Saber trembled. As though it was agitated, it let out a loud, furious dragon roar. The saber chi became even stronger, and the ancestral dragon chi was berserk with a rampant dragon might. Apart from the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island, Moing and Su Zimo, the surrounding cultivators were shocked and retreated one after another, afraid that they would be implicated. Is he going to fail again? Jing Ming's eyes dimmed. Jing Xing sighed internally with a look of pity. They were not the only ones. In the hearts of most of the cultivators from Divine Phoenix Island, although mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix could not wield the Dragon Soul Saber, he was already their young master. All these years, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix stayed on Divine Phoenix Island and conquered places for it. He had done countless meritorious deeds and possessed immense prestige. Up till this point of his cultivation, he had never tasted defeat among his peers, and it was even easier for him to challenge those above his level. Although the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island was a half-martial ancestor, the outcome of a battle between the two of them would be indeterminate. It was definitely not a fluke that mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix had such prestige in Divine Phoenix Island. Therefore, many Divine Phoenix Island cultivators were indignant when they saw that he was about to lose to an outsider. Su Zimo had a calm expression. If he wanted to subdue the Dragon Soul Saber with the Divine Phoenix Bone, it would be extremely difficult. That was because the bloodline of the dragon race was not weaker than the Divine Phoenix race to begin with. The reason why Su Zimo could make the Dragon Soul Saber submit was not because of the Divine Phoenix Bone. It was because the Dragon Soul Saber had sensed the aura of the Dragon Phoenix in Su Zimo's body. Although it was not obvious, it was one of the 3 primordial taboos. Although this was his first time coming into contact with mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix, Su Zimo could vaguely sense an extremely terrifying power coming from the latter. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix was far from simple. Dragon Soul Hall. The trembling of the Dragon Soul Saber intensified, as though it could break free from the hands of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix at any moment. Humph! Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix harumphed coldly with a resolute gaze. He bit his tongue gently and spat out a mouthful of scarlet blood. The moment the blood fell out, it was filled with a scorching aura. The aura was not weaker than the temperature of the Divine Phoenix Bone. Shing! The stream of blood splashed onto the Divine Phoenix Bone and evaporated instantly. A shuddering aura emanated from the fog, as though an extremely terrifying existence was awakening. The surrounding cultivators were shocked and their eyes were filled with fear. Against that aura, they actually had the urge to kneel down and kowtow. Humans were not the only ones. The other races present, be it ancient remnant beasts or pure-blooded ferocious beasts, were filled with fear. It was a fear that came from the depths of their bloodlines. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes as well and his heart skipped a beat. The moment the blood of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix fused with the divine Phoenix bone, his bloodline became restless. His dragon blood boiled and the divine Phoenix bone burned as well. This had never happened before. What was even stranger was that the dragon soul Saber was initially struggling. However, it froze up and stopped trembling when it sensed the aura. Even the dragon soul Saber seemed to be shocked by that aura. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix was delighted. But soon, the dragon soul Saber trembled once more. Clang! Clang! Immediately after, dragon chi emanated from the dragon soul Saber, and the phantom of an ancestral dragon was conjured. It soared into the skies and let out a dragon roar that penetrated metal and cracked rocks, shocking the entire place. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix shuddered and his expression changed starkly. The two berserk auras collided and the divine Phoenix bone that was in mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix's hands was sent flying. Without the suppression of the divine Phoenix bone, the dragon soul Saber released its might completely. Saber chi filled the air and it was extremely sharp, as though it could slice through the void. The palm of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix that was holding the dragon soul Saber tore instantly and blood gushed out. Intense pain stimulated his nerves. However, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix grit his teeth and refused to let go. His features were contorted in pain and were squeezed together. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island frowned and said darkly, "Heavenly Phoenix, let go!" Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix remained silent and gripped the dragon soul Saber still, unwilling to give up. Buzz! Buzz! In a wild manner, the saber chi surged upwards along the wrist of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. Right in front of everyone, wounds appeared on the arm of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix before long and fresh blood flowed. If this continued, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix's entire arm would be minced into dust. Bang! The island master of Divine Phoenix Island waved his sleeves and released a domineering power that struck the palm of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix released his grip and the dragon soul saber broke free, turning into a white cold beam of light that returned to Su Zimo instantly. Chi! The dragon soul saber stabbed vertically into the ground in front of Su Zimo, and its blade trembled. Nobody knew what happened or why the dragon soul saber that had initially gone silent suddenly broke free from the control of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. Even Su Zimo could not understand. But now, it was clear who won. This time round, even the surrounding cultivators went silent. On the other side, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix stood motionlessly with a terrible expression. His arm was slumped, and was dripping with blood in a wretched manner. Of course, such injuries were nothing to conjoined body mighty figures. Even if his arm was snapped, it could regrow. However, the blow he received today was way too great. Even with his shrewdness, he could not conceal the indignance and disappointment in his heart at that moment. None of the cultivators present knew better than him why he was defeated. Just a step more! Just a little more! Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix lowered his head slightly to conceal the gloominess in his eyes. Su Zimo smiled at mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix and cupped his fists. "Thank you for giving in, Senior Heavenly Phoenix." Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix raised his head and smiled as well. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island raised his voice. "Since things have come to this, there's no point arguing. Long mo. Island master!" Right then, Jingming could not hold it in any longer and stood out, saying in a deep voice, "The status of a young master is no small matter. Long Mo's background is unknown. Please reconsider, Island Master. Island Master, please listen to me." Jingxing bowed as well. "The young master of Divine Phoenix Island is the face of Divine Phoenix Island and his combat strength must not be weak. Otherwise, Divine Phoenix Island will be mocked by outsiders." Chapter 1337 Holding Back. Chapter 1337 Holding Back. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island raised his brow and asked, "What are you trying to say?" Jingxing said in a deep voice, "I suggest that Senior Brother Heavenly Phoenix should fight with Long Mo, and the victor will be the young master of Divine Phoenix Island." "That's right," Jingming added. "Senior Brother Heavenly Phoenix has been in Divine Phoenix Island for so long. That's only fair for him." "Foo-foo," Moing sneered. "What a joke! Long Mo is only at the Dharma characteristic realm, and Heavenly Phoenix is a conjoined body mighty figure. There's no fairness to speak of in a fight between the two of them. Furthermore, the young master of Divine Phoenix Island isn't someone who can be crowned just because he's strong in combat." When Jingming saw that Moing was enraged, he was a little afraid as well. However, he still braced himself and argued. "However, it doesn't mean that his combat strength can be weak. Wouldn't Divine Phoenix Island be a joke if any casual person could just suppress our island master with ease?" Jingxing rolled his eyes and a plot came to mind. Elder Mo Ying's words are not unreasonable. Since their cultivation realms are different, this battle is indeed unfair. Since that's the case, I'll spar with fellow Taoist Long Mo. If you can't even defeat me, then, foo-foo. Jingxing laughed. Although he did not continue, his meaning was clear. At this point, Su Zimo grinned at Jingxing. For some reason, when he saw Su Zimo smile, Jingxing's heart palpitated inexplicably and his hairs stood on end. It felt as though he was targeted by an extremely terrifying ferocious beast and was about to face a calamity at any moment. Jingxing gulped, feeling a little worried. He added, "Of course, even if I lose, it doesn't mean anything. My combat strength is ordinary to begin with. At that time, we can wait until fellow Taoist Long Mo reaches the conjoined body realm before sparring with Senior Brother Heavenly Phoenix." This suggestion was killing two birds with one stone. As an outsider, Su Zimo did not have much foundation and prestige in Divine Phoenix Island to begin with. If he were to lose to Jingxing, no one would be willing to acknowledge him. It did not matter even if Su Zimo won. A fair fight would only come after Su Zimo advanced to the conjoined body realm. In other words, the matter of the young master could only be put aside for the time being. Su Zimo's gaze landed on mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. It had to be said that mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix could truly hold his ground. Right from the beginning, he had not expressed his viewpoint, as though he was not directly involved. The attitude of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix was interesting. He did not agree nor did he reject. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island had a dark expression and remained silent. Su Zimo smiled without saying anything as well. To him, Jingming and Jingxing were like two clowns that were of no threat at all. Su Zimo was fearless even if he followed their suggestion. In the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, how many conjoined body mighty figures died in his hands? No matter how strong mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix was in combat, and how much of a monster incarnate he was only comparable to the mighty figures of the primordial races at most. Even mighty figures of the primordial races could be killed with the trump cards of the dragon true body. The gaze of the island master of Divine Phoenix Island shifted as he looked at mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix at the side and asked, "Heavenly Phoenix, what do you think?" "I'll leave it up to you entirely, Island Master," mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix replied with a smile. The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island nodded and looked at Jingxing and Jingming before saying expressionlessly, "The suggestion made by the two of you is truly not bad." "Is that so?" Jingming chuckled. "I think it's not bad either." The smile on the face of mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix stiffened. He could hear the repressed rage in the tone of the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island. "The Saber Emperor has orders that whoever wields the Dragon Soul Saber will be the young Master of Divine Phoenix Island." The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island's expression turned cold as he said slowly, "The two of you are truly promising. Are you going to go against the rules left behind by the Saber Emperor?" Jingming and Jingxing realized that something was amiss as well and their hearts skipped a beat. Jingming replied hurriedly, "Please calm down, Island Master. I didn't mean that. How dare the two of you?" Suddenly, the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island shouted. Thump! Jing Ming and Jing Xing were so frightened that they knelt on the ground with pale faces. The might of the island master and the wrath of a half-martial ancestor was something that the two of them could not withstand at all. They were so scared that their souls almost left their bodies and they pissed their pants. Su Zimo was silent. This scene had truly exceeded his expectations. Initially, he thought that even if he possessed the divine phoenix bone, he would be an outsider, and it would be difficult for him to gain the recognition of Divine Phoenix Island in a short period of time. To think that the island master of Divine Phoenix Island would stand on his side without any hesitation when he wielded the Dragon Soul Saber. The two of you are only at the Dharma characteristic realm, and yet you want to go against the Saber Emperor's orders and disrespect the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. I don't think there's any need for you guys to retain your cultivations anymore. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island said coldly. Island master, please calm down. Island master, please spare us. Jing Ming and Jing Xing were scared out of their wits and kowtowed repeatedly, begging for mercy. The other surrounding cultivators could not bear it either, and wanted to plead for mercy. However, they did not dare to, afraid that they would be implicated as well. Greetings, young master! Suddenly, a voice sounded beside him. All the cultivators looked over and were shocked. Even Su Zimo's eyes flashed with surprise. Nobody expected that the first person to greet the young master would be Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix. What did that mean? Even Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix had bowed down. At that moment, Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix arrived before Su Zimo and bowed slightly with cupped fists. I'm Heavenly Phoenix. Greetings, young master. If you have any orders from now on, I'll lay my life on the line without regrets. Su Zimo's reaction was extremely swift, and he smiled as well. You're too kind, Senior Heavenly Phoenix. There's no need to stand on courtesy. However, at the same time, he was secretly shocked. This Heavenly Phoenix sure was a character. He was scarier than Su Zimo had imagined. In fact, when Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix asked about Dai Yu's whereabouts, Su Zimo was already alerted. When he mentioned that Dai Yu had already left, although Heavenly Phoenix expressed disappointment and pity, there was a hint of relief in the latter as well. Of course, that was merely Su Zimo's intuition and could be inaccurate. Thereafter, something else made Su Zimo even more guarded against Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix. His epiphany process was seemingly interrupted by Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix by accident. If it was unintentional, it would have been fine. However, if it was intentional. Later on, Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix wanted Moing to leave. However, Moing did not agree. That action seemed like it was nothing. However, everything that happened later on was worth pondering about. After that, Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix wanted to take Su Zimo to the Dragon Soul Hall. Subduing the Dragon Soul Saber was extremely dangerous, and a single mistake could lead to severe injuries. It was impossible for Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix not to know that. However, he expressed his gestures as goodwill. Indeed, Moing stopped his suggestion. But Su Zimo wanted to see the Dragon Soul Saber as well and agreed to it along with the flow, resulting in the scene earlier. That was the reason why Su Zimo felt that Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix was a little terrifying. It was because right from the beginning, Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix did not show any hostility towards him. On the surface, his actions were completely out of goodwill. After all, everything that happened earlier was Su Zimo's guess without any evidence. Now Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix took the initiative to bow down and acknowledge him as the young master. If Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix was sincere, it would mean that Su Zimo was being petty and thought too much previously. However, if this person was scheming something, it would mean that he was way too good at holding back. Chapter 1338 Young Master of Divine Phoenix Island. Chapter 1338 Young Master of Divine Phoenix Island. In truth, there was a moment earlier when Su Zimo even triggered a killing intent towards Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix. If Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix took the initiative to challenge him, it would mean that his guess was true. He would then attack logically during the fights, and even if he did not kill Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix, he would cripple the latter. Unfortunately, Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix did not express anything. He merely stood at the back and allowed Jingming and Jingxing to step in. Right from the beginning, he had not said a single word. Now that the other cultivators were hesitant, Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix was the first to step forward and take the lead to acknowledge him as the young master. Therefore, even if Su Zimo could sense that Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix had other motives, he had no proof. Everything was just his speculation and feelings. If it was any other cultivator, they would be moved to tears at the sight of Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix taking the lead to acknowledge him as the young master and develop boundless trust in him. However, Su Zimo had been through too much bloodshed and scheming in the cultivation world. He believed in his intuition. That was why he had been guarded against Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix the entire time. Furthermore, he would not relax even if Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix took the initiative to bow down. Instead, he would be even more guarded. What are you guys waiting for? Hurry and greet the young master! Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix turned around and reminded the many Divine Phoenix Island cultivators not far away. Greetings, young master! Many cultivators reacted and bowed. Emoing was delighted and smiled as well, cupping her fists at Su Zimo. Greetings, young master! Well done, Heavenly Phoenix! The island master of Divine Phoenix Island nodded slightly in praise of the actions of Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix. Initially, there was a high chance that an intense conflict would break out on Divine Phoenix Island, and it might even turn into an internal strife. Now that Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix had taken the initiative to bow down, it was equivalent to resolving the conflict. Island Master, I have a presumptuous request. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix knelt down and said, There's no need for that, Heavenly Phoenix. Feel free to speak your mind. The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island was delighted that a fight was spared. He waved his sleeves hurriedly and helped Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix up. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix said in a deep voice, Although Jingming and Jingxing made a huge mistake, it was unintentional. You wish to plead for mercy for the two of them? The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island frowned slightly. No. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix said sincerely. I know that you were merely saying it out of spite when you mentioned that you wanted to cripple their cultivations earlier on. I'd like to accept the punishment on behalf of the two of them. Island Master, please show mercy and give them a chance to turn over a new leaf. They cultivated for thousands of years to reach the Dharma characteristic realm. It's not easy. Jingming and Jingxing were so touched that their eyes brimmed with tears as they kowtowed repeatedly to Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix and the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island in silence. Su Zimo was silent. It had to be said that it was truly not a fluke that Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix had such prestige on Divine Phoenix Island. He pulled a trick there. He did not plead for mercy and asked the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island to let Jingming and Jingxing off. Instead, he proposed to take the punishment on behalf of Jingming and Jingxing. What sort of status did he possess? He was a conjoined body mighty figure in possession of the Divine Phoenix Bone. Furthermore, even if he wasn't the young master, his status in Divine Phoenix Island was extremely high, and no one else could compare to him. There was no way the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island could throw out a severe punishment after Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix's suggestion. Indeed, the Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island looked at Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix deeply. Since that's the case, head to the edge of the South Sea and face the cliffs to reflect on your actions. Thank you, Island Master. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix smiled gently. That punishment was almost negligible. The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island turned to look at Emoing. I'll leave the young master's accommodations, palace and daily affairs to you. Yes. Emoing nodded. As the Saber attendant, Emoing served whoever wielded the Dragon Soul Saber. The Island Master of Divine Phoenix Island turned to leave. Young Master, I have to head to the edge of the South Sea to reflect and won't be able to serve you for the time being. Please don't blame me. Mighty Figure Heavenly Phoenix apologized. Don't worry. Su Zimo gave a fake smile. Right then, the voice of the island master of Divine Phoenix Island sounded outside the Dragon Soul Hall. Everyone of Divine Phoenix Island, listen up! The Dragon Soul Saber already has a master, and now, Long Mo will be the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. Everyone of Divine Phoenix Island, you must obey the orders of the young master from now on. Although his voice was not loud, it spread to every corner of Divine Phoenix Island. Every single living being of Divine Phoenix Island knew one thing: the young master of Divine Phoenix Island had been established. It was not mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix whom they were familiar with, but a cultivator named Long Mo. Instantly, Divine Phoenix Island was in an uproar. Suddenly, a surreal feeling rose in Su Zimo's heart. After he escaped death through the wild currents of the void, he arrived at Divine Phoenix Island and by some freak coincidence, became the young master of Divine Phoenix Island with a conjoined body mighty figure as a servant. What was even more terrifying was that he could mobilize the entire Divine Phoenix Island as its young master. It could be said that his status was only beneath a single person and above everyone else. Of course, Divine Phoenix Island should not know of his true identity yet. However, this was something that could not be hidden for long and would spread to Divine Phoenix Island sooner or later. He wondered how they would feel if they knew that he was the Tao Lord Desolate Marshal who was hunted by the immortal, Buddhist, and fiend sects, and was enemies with the primordial races. Would they relinquish his position as the young master? It was hard to say. No matter what, he had to adapt to the situation. At the very least, it was not a bad thing to become the young master of Divine Phoenix Island right now. Furthermore, he had a chance to cultivate the Tidal Manual and see Calming Manual properly on Divine Phoenix Island. If he was enlightened, he might even find the opportunity to advance to the conjoined body realm. At that time, even if Divine Phoenix Island could not accommodate him, he would be able to protect himself and leave this place. "Young master, let's go," Emoing said. "I'll take you to take a look at your palace. You can head out as well and let the cultivators on the island meet you." "Yes." Su Zimo nodded and left together with Emoing. In Dragon Soul Hall, Jingming and Jingxing, the two cultivators who had survived a calamity, gradually calmed down. They came before mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix and bowed deeply. "Senior brother Heavenly Phoenix, we will definitely remember this favor. Get up, it's nothing much." Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix smiled gently. Thereafter, his eyes landed on Su Zimo's back view from afar. Narrowing his gaze, he seemed to be in deep thoughts. Under Mo Ying's lead, Su Zimo took another spin around Divine Phoenix Island. This time round, most of the cultivators on Divine Phoenix Island already knew him. Many cultivators looked at him with deep curiosity. Some of the sea race ladies shifted their beautiful eyes and stood far away, pointing at Su Zimo with sparkling eyes. They smiled secretly and blushed. "What are those cultivators doing?" Su Zimo pointed to the seaside not far away and asked curiously. On the other side, some reefs appeared on the surface of the ocean with some cultivators sitting on them. Their sabers were placed horizontally across their knees as they gazed at the surface of the ocean. "They're comprehending," Emoing explained. "Back then, the Saber Emperor comprehended the Tao at the seaside and created the two secret manuals of the Saber Tao, the Tidal Manual and Sea Calming Manual. These cultivators are trying to follow the tracks of the Saber Emperor in the past and comprehend that same mental state." Chapter 1339 Hermit. Chapter 1339 Hermit. Comprehending the Tao by the seaside? Su Zimo nodded silently. Upon arriving at Divine Phoenix Island, he witnessed the grandeur of the ocean with his own eyes and experienced the boundless power of the universe. Indeed, it was extremely helpful for him to comprehend the Saber Emperor's inheritance. For the next few days, Su Zimo took a spin around Divine Phoenix Island before heading to the Saber Dao Inheritance Palace of Divine Phoenix Island to comprehend the inheritance left behind by the Saber Emperor. It had to be said that the Saber Emperor was truly magnanimous and treated all cultivators of Tianhuang Mainland and Divine Phoenix Island equally. The Tidal Manual and Sea Calming Manual of Divine Phoenix Island were identical to what Su Zimo had learned. The Saber Emperor did not hide anything in the inheritance he left behind in the Saber Mountain Spirit Sea. Thereafter, Su Zimo went to the seaside and sat on a reef as well. The place he chose was at the back of his palace, and it was extremely quiet. There were no other cultivators by the seaside, and he would not be disturbed. Su Zimo sat on the reef by the seaside every day, watching the clouds rise and fall, the ebb and flow of the tides and the surging of the waves. He comprehended the mysterious changes within and practiced repeatedly with his saber. Initially, he swung his saber extremely frequently. He had to slash thousands, or even tens of thousands of times daily. However, as time passed by, the number of times Su Zimo swung his saber decreased. At the end, there would always be a long pause between each slash. However, the saber intent released by his slashes turned increasingly terrifying and sharp. His saber intent was almost as perfected for the first 4 stanzas of the Sea Calming Manual. However, Su Zimo had no clue about the final stance, Sea Calming. That was the true essence of the Sea Calming Manual. This day, heavy rain poured and thunder rumbled. On the surface of the ocean, waves surged and rumbled endlessly, as though the apocalypse was about to descend and destroy everything. Su Zimo was waving his saber at the seaside when he caught sight of a small boat floating amidst the fog above the surface of the ocean. The small boat was like a tiny speck of dust that could be devoured at any moment in the face of the raging ocean and storm. On the small boat was a fisherman. He wore a green straw hat and a green woven rush raincoat. He swayed in the waves as though he could fall into the ocean at any moment. Su Zimo swept his spirit consciousness and could not help but frown. The fisherman was a mere mortal. There were many other mortals like this on Divine Phoenix Island as well. Su Zimo did not know how long this fisherman struggled in the waves before he caught sight of the latter. He was prepared to get up to save the fisherman. Right then, on the small boat, the fisherman suddenly took out a gigantic fish net and cast it towards the turbulent ocean. Su Zimo's pupils constricted violently. Initially, the raging tides created a series of roars, but all of a sudden, everything went silent. Instantly, the storm subsided. The surface of the ocean was unusually calm, as though it was frozen without any ripples. Even the skies were clear and the clouds that spanned thousands of kilometers were floating. The azure ocean and the blue skies were illuminating one another. That scene was way too terrifying. Even with Su Zimo's strength, he could not do it. This was practically changing the state of the world. This was probably what it meant to connect to heaven and earth and be invincible. This unassuming fisherman managed to calm the entire ocean and forcefully change the weather just by casting a fish net. Su Zimo's expression changed, seemingly in deep thought. Sea calming Euro, he muttered softly. Although the fisherman looked like he was casting a fish net, what he released was actually the intent of sea calming. This was a true expert. Su Zimo was secretly shocked. Even he could not see through the cultivation of this expert. In a flash, Su Zimo arrived at the seaside and bowed deeply to the fisherman on the small boat. Greetings, Senior. I'm Long Mo. I see that you've been comprehending the Tao by the seaside for the past few days. Your comprehension talent is not bad, lad. The fisherman raised his head and looked at Su Zimo before bursting into joyful laughter. He had an unshaved beard and looked no different from the fishermen mortals of Divine Phoenix Island. Su Zimo had not expected that he was being watched for so long without realizing anything at all. Unfortunately, it's impossible to comprehend sea calming at the seaside. The fisherman shook his head. Senior, please enlighten me. Su Zimo bowed once more with a respectful expression. The fisherman said, If you want to calm the sea, you must first enter the sea. You have to experience the boundless power of the ocean personally. What can you comprehend by watching the rise and fall of the tides here at the seaside? If I want to calm the sea, I must first enter the sea, Su Zimo murmured softly, as though he understood something. Although those words were simple, Su Zimo felt that there was a truth to them that could simplify things. The more he pondered, the more he understood the endless mysteries within. By the time Su Zimo returned to his senses, the latter was already riding on a small boat and singing fish songs. he floated into the depths of the sea and almost disappeared. "Senior, may I know your name?" Su Zimo shouted hurriedly. "Hermit." A moment later, the voice of the fisherman sounded. In the blink of an eye, he vanished into the fog in the distance. Everything that happened earlier seemed like a dream. Moments ago, there was a raging storm and lightning flashed. But now, everything was clear and peaceful. "Moing, do you recognize the fisherman from earlier on?" Su Zimo turned around and said to Moing. Ever since he wielded the dragon soul saber, Moing had been by his side and was almost inseparable. He comprehended the Dao by the seaside daily, and Moing followed closely behind. "What fisherman?" Moing froze for a moment with a lost expression. Su Zimo pointed in the direction where the fisherman appeared earlier on and continued. "Didn't you see the fisherman earlier on? He even spoke to me." "No. It's just been me and you here the entire time, young master." Moing shook her head. "Furthermore, this sea region behind your palace is considered a forbidden ground. Cultivators of Divine Phoenix Island are not allowed to enter casually." This time round, Su Zimo was the one who was stunned. He was certain that he was not wrong. However, there was no way Moing was wrong either, given that she was a conjoined body mighty figure. In other words, the means of Hermit was unfathomable and had even surpassed Su Zimo's understanding. "Amazing!" Su Zimo thought to himself and turned to Moing. "I'm prepared to enter the ocean to comprehend the Tao. There's no need for you to follow me." With that, he leaped into the depths with the dragon soul saber and headed towards the bottom of the ocean. If it was any other cultivator, even Dharma characteristic Tao lords, their strength would definitely be suppressed, and they would not be used to it deep in the ocean. However, that was not the case for Su Zimo. The dragon race loved water to begin with, and could create waves and overturn rivers and oceans with ease. After the dragon true body entered the waters, he did not feel any discomfort, and continued swimming towards the bottom of the ocean without slowing down. Initially, Moing chased Su Zimo deeper. Her movement technique was impacted significantly in the waters. At first, she could still see Su Zimo's figure. The deeper she dived, the more pressure she had to endure against the seawater. Before long, she lost track of Su Zimo entirely. Chapter 1340 Trouble. Chapter 1340 Trouble. Southern Region, Beiming Town. In the ancient era, the Beiming aristocratic family was originally ranked alongside the three great aristocratic families. However, times changed and the territory of the Beiming aristocratic family was now mostly occupied by the three aristocratic families. Right now, they were left with this town that was surrounded by the three aristocratic families. It was impossible for anyone from the Beiming clan to leave the territory of the three aristocratic families. While the name of the Beiming aristocratic family remains, they are almost completely wiped out. If not for the fact that the three aristocratic families were interested in the legend of the Beiming aristocratic family, and the secret they were guarding, the Beiming aristocratic family would have been destroyed a long time ago. Although they were millions of kilometers apart, the Green Lotus True Body could sense the situation of the Dragon True Body and was relieved. Right now, the only thing Su Zimo was worried about was Night Spirit. They were dispersed by the wild currents of the void, and the Green Lotus True Body and Dragon True Body were teleported to foreign lands with a distance of millions of kilometers apart. He did not know how Night Spirit was right now or whether he was still floating in the wild currents of the void. Right then, Su Zimo's heart stirred. His gaze penetrated the window and landed on the girl in the courtyard. A year and a half had passed since Su Zimo imparted the Tao. During this period of time, Beiming Xue had undergone a complete transformation and her cultivation advanced tremendously. She had already reached the tsunami blood realm a month ago. Under normal circumstances, one could attempt to condense a blood Qi golden core the moment their bloodline was at the lead Mercury amalgam blood realm. However, Su Zimo had extremely high expectations for Beiming Xue. He taught her according to the highest expectations. Therefore, Su Zimo did not rush Beiming Xue to condense her blood Qi golden core. Instead, he had her focus on cultivating her bloodline. With a firm foundation, Beiming Xue's future would be even broader and her accomplishments would be limitless. It would also be much easier for her to condense a blood-chi golden core after she was at the tsunami blood realm. Everything would fall into place naturally at that time. In just a month, Beiming Xue touched the barrier of the blood-chi golden core. Earlier on, Su Zimo could clearly sense that Beiming Xue's aura had changed. Initially, her blood-chi was surging after she cultivated to the tsunami blood realm. Even if she did not move, no one could ignore her. Her blood-chi was torrential and exuberant. Beiming Xue stood there like a pure-blooded ferocious beast. Thankfully, nobody came during this period of time and Beiming Ao did not return. Otherwise, his jaws would have dropped when he saw Beiming Xue like this. But now, Beiming Xue's blood-chi retracted rapidly, as though it had condensed into a single spot in an instant. Her aura converged once more. Now, that seemingly quiet girl seemed to have returned. However, those with sharper eyes could tell that the current girl was much stronger than Beiming Xue, who had a torrential blood-chi a month ago. The sixth transformation of the martial Dao, the blood-chi golden core, succeeded. In the courtyard, Beiming Xue was delighted when she sensed the condition of her body. She turned around, wanting to share her joy with Su Zimo right away. The moment she turned around, she caught sight of him standing not far away, smiling at her. "Mr. Su, I've condensed the blood-chi golden core," Beiming Xue said joyfully. "Yes." Su Zimo nodded slightly. "Very good. Continue cultivating and don't slack off." "Thank you, sir." Beiming Xue bowed deeply to Su Zimo. "If not for you, sir, I might still be lingering in the first transformation of the martial Dao." "Everything is preordained," Su Zimo said. "The opportunity I'm granting you is also due to the cycle of karma." Beiming Xue was bewildered. Her beautiful eyes looked at the green-robed man unblinkingly with a lost gaze and confusion. Beiming Xue would not believe it if anyone told her that the green-robed man was not a cultivator. However, if he was, he did not possess the aura of one at all. His face was withered and yellowed, looking extremely sickly. Anyone who saw him would merely take him as a frail scholar. Beiming Xue had asked Su Zimo before. The latter did not elaborate, and merely mentioned casually that he was injured. For the past year, Beiming Xue's condition had been improving. However, Su Zimo's situation had not changed for the better and Beiming Xue was worried as well. Although she had only known Su Zimo for more than a year, Beiming Xue had already developed an inexplicable trust and dependence on him. She was afraid that Su Zimo would leave her one day. "Mr. Su, your injuries?" Beiming Xue asked carefully with a concerned expression. "It's fine." Su Zimo shook his head. Right then, he frowned and his gaze crossed the courtyard, as though it passed through the voids and landed outside Beiming town. "Here comes trouble for you," Su Zimo said indifferently. "Ah?" Beiming Xue was still oblivious. Even with his essence spirit locked, Su Zimo's hearing and vision were still present and he saw the situation outside Beiming town right away. Before long, Beiming Xue's expression changed when she heard the commotion as well. With a dark expression, she turned around and looked at the entrance. A menacing demon beast was the first to appear at the entrance. It was a golden core realm emerald blood leopard, an ancient remnant beast. It was jade green due to a variation in its bloodline. Extremely fast and agile, it hunted and killed living beings with extreme ferocity. Riding on the emerald blood leopard was an extraordinarily handsome cultivator at the golden core realm. Nangong Yu. Compared to Dongfang Xian, Nangong Yu was more scheming. A few years ago, in order to find out more about the secrets of the Beiming aristocratic family, he approached Beiming Xue continuously. Although Nangong Yu was only from a collateral lineage of the Nangong aristocratic family, his status was much higher than Beiming Xue's. Therefore, the fact that he was willing to lower his status and court Beiming Xue was something that brought about the admiration of many Beiming clansmen. Even Beiming Ao was in awe of him. If Beiming Xue could become Dao companions with Nangong Yu, at the very least, she would be able to get out of the situation of being bullied by the other aristocratic families. Unfortunately, Nangongyu finally revealed his true colors after the conflict between Beiming Xue and Dong Fanji. He no longer dared to get too close to Beiming Xue, for fear of offending Dong Fanji. Dong Fanji was a direct descendant of the Dongfang aristocratic family bloodline, and her status was far above his. Furthermore, Beiming Xue's golden core was shattered and she was reduced to a cripple. No matter how beautiful she was, she would not live for more than 100 years. Beauty would soon fade. While Nangongyu would still be charming and handsome after dozens of years, Beiming Xue would already be withered and old. That was the reason why Nangongyu laid his cards on the table with Beiming Xue a year ago. Although the Beiming aristocratic family had declined, Beiming Xue was still extremely proud in the depths of her heart, and did not give him a good attitude. "Xue, I'm here to see you." Riding on the back of the emerald blood leopard, Nangongyu looked down at Beiming Xue with a faint smile. One did not possess any spirit chi to begin with when they cultivated the martial Dao. Therefore, Nangongyu could not tell Beiming Xue's cultivation realm either. Furthermore, Beiming Xue had cultivated to the 6th transformation of the martial Dao. Her blood chi was converged and formed a golden core that lay dormant within her body. Without activation, her terrifying blood chi would not be revealed. Chapter 1341 Killing. Chapter 1341 Killing. Don't call me that. It sounds disgusting. Beiming Xue glanced at Nangongyu and said coldly, "Bitch, don't be ungrateful." Behind Nangongyu were 3 Foundation establishment cultivators. They were all Nangongyu's servants, and one of them cursed Beiming Xue fiercely. Beiming Xue's gaze shifted to the servant silently. Nangongyu smiled gently and was not vexed. "Xue, the reason why I'm addressing you as such is because I want to give you a chance on account of our past relationship. You're a smart person. You should understand that I don't have much patience left." Although Nangongyu was smiling, his tone was cold. "There's no past relationship between us." Beiming Xue waved her hand. "If there's nothing else, you guys can leave." "Leave?" Nangongyu's expression turned cold. "Beiming Xue, if you don't tell me the secret of the Beiming aristocratic family, I have many methods to deal with you. You're already a cripple. Although I don't fancy you, the servants that follow me fancy you." That was an extremely vile thought. Even Su Zimo narrowed his eyes with a flash of killing intent when he heard that. However, he had no intention of attacking. It was the same way Dai Yu treated him in the past. Unless Beiming Xue was against an unstoppable force, he would not interfere and would just let her settle it on her own. Hee hee! A family servant's gaze roamed Beiming Xue's body brazenly, and he smiled evilly. "Little girl, how about coming back with me? I guarantee that I'll dote on you a lot," another servant said with a smile. "Old Hu, don't take everything for yourself. We're also waiting to feast on her, brother." Beiming Xue remained silent and swept her gaze across the 3 servants. Nangongyu said indifferently, "Beiming Xue, if I take you away and reward you to my servants, no one in the Beiming aristocratic family will dare to stop me. Nobody can save you. Tell me the secret. This is your last chance." In the entire Beiming town, the strongest were only at the nascent soul realm. Although that was a higher cultivation realm than Nangongyu and he was only from a collateral lineage of the Nangong aristocratic family, none of the Beiming clansmen would dare to stop him. Beiming Xue was expressionless as she said slowly, "Nangongyu, I'll give you one last chance as well. If you turn and leave now, I can spare your life." "What are you talking about?" As though he had heard the greatest joke in the world, Nangongyu laughed out of anger. "You want to spare my life as a cripple? Oh!" He came to a realization. "I remember now. You seem to have cultivated some bullshit martial Dao. Why? Did you manage to attain greater mastery of it after more than a year? Is that why you dare to threaten me now? Bitch, you must have a death wish. How dare you provoke my young master? Young master, let us take down that slut." The 3 servants stood out one after another and glared at Beiming Xue with evil intentions. They sneered and were waiting for Nan Gongyu's command. Nan Gongyu is the only one I'm giving the chance to. Beiming Xue's gaze was cold as she looked at the 3 servants not far away and said slowly, "As for the 3 of you, none of you will leave today." Beiming Xue possessed the bloodline of the Beiming aristocratic family. Even though the Beiming clan had fallen, she still had her pride. Otherwise, she would not have clashed with Dong Fangji over a treasure. Furthermore, Beiming Xue had cultivated the martial Dao for more than a year, and her resolve had turned firmer and more unwavering. The martial Dao allowed one to take revenge and repay gratitude as they wished. The 3 servants spoke without restraint and made filthy remarks to her. Beiming Xue was already filled with killing intent and had no intention of letting them leave. "You dare to threaten us still?" A servant revealed a ferocious expression and slapped his storage bag. The moment he summoned his flying sword, his vision blurred and a figure charged over. It was too fast. He could not react at all. Bang! Beiming Xue strode and arrived before the house servant. She reached out and punched the latter on the chest. It wasn't any brilliant technique, just a direct punch. However, the servant could not defend against it, and was sent flying like an arrow, slamming into the wall of the courtyard. The servant's eyes were widened with disbelief. His chest caved in, and he slid down the wall slowly, no longer breathing. That casual punch from Beiming Xue crushed the bones in this man's chest. A spiderweb-like crack appeared on the wall behind the person. The power of that punch was extremely terrifying. Psst! The other 2 servants gasped when they saw that. Although they were Foundation establishment cultivators, they were still shocked when they saw that terrifying burst. In that momentary daze, Beiming Xue had already arrived before another servant. She extended her fair, tender palm and slapped the top of the servant's head. Snap! The servant's neck snapped instantly. His head was shoved into his chest by Beiming Xue's palm and he died on the spot. Bitch, why you? The last servant was already scared out of his wits and could not speak properly. Beiming Xue came before that person and said indifferently, "You should join them so that all of you can accompany one another in hell." Piak! Beiming Xue reached out and slapped him. The person's head spun around his neck for more than 10 times before coming to a stop. He was already dead. With a thud, his corpse fell to the ground. The entire process merely took 3 breaths. 3 Foundation establishment cultivators died on the spot. Su Zimo nodded silently. When she was silent, Beiming Xue seemed like a gentle and weak girl. However, if it came to a fight, she was decisive to kill. Her moves were clean without hesitation. Roar! It was only now that Nan Gongyu realized. The emerald blood leopard beneath him growled and roared threateningly at Beiming Xue, but it did not dare to advance recklessly. As demons, they were the sharpest towards danger. Although Beiming Xue did not release her blood chi fully earlier on, she still revealed some of it. The emerald blood leopard sensed a dangerous aura coming from Beiming Xue. It was a feeling that was even more terrifying than facing a pure-blooded ferocious beast. Therefore, although the emerald blood leopard was at the Golden Core realm, it did not dare to act rashly. By the time Nan Gongyu realized what happened, the 3 servants were already dead. It was too late even if he wanted to save them. Beiming Xue, how dare you! Nan Gongyu's expression was dark as he released his aura as a golden core and said coldly, "How dare you kill my servants? Are you really tired of living? Killing your servants was just the start." Beiming Xue's gaze landed on the emerald blood leopard as she said indifferently, "I don't like it when that beast yells at me." Before her sentence was finished, she struck. Chapter 1342 Broken Sword. Chapter 1342 Broken Sword. Roar! Sensing danger, the emerald blood leopard exerted strength in its limbs and burst forth with blood chi before Nan Gongyu gave the order to dodge to the side. As an ancient remnant beast, the emerald blood leopard relied on speed the most. However, although it was fast, Beiming Xue was even faster. Swoosh! Beiming Xue's blood chi spread as well. In fact, she did not even circulate her blood chi to its limits. With a slight circulation, she released a shocking power and caught up to the emerald blood leopard in the blink of an eye. Beiming Xue stood in front of the emerald blood leopard. She looked extremely skinny and was not even as tall as its limbs. However, the emerald blood leopard felt a ferocious aura surge towards it, as though it was not facing a human girl, but a pure-blooded ferocious beast. The emerald blood leopard opened its mouth and bared its menacing fangs. They shone with a cold glint and chomped down viciously at Beiming Xue. Beiming Xue's expression was unchanged as she reached out and grabbed the neck of the emerald blood leopard before it could close its mouth. Remnant ferocious beasts like this had the strongest bite strength. However, even with its full strength, the emerald blood leopard could not bite down. On the contrary, its mouth was opening wider and wider with Beiming Xue's tug. Ooh! The emerald blood leopard had a pained expression. Its initial ferocity had long vanished as it let out a pleading sound from the depths of its throat. Bitch, how dare you! Nangongyu was enraged and slapped his storage bag, summoning a flying sword and injecting spirit energy into it. The sword shone with 4 spirit lights and shone brightly. It was a supreme-grade spirit weapon. As a collateral lineage descendant of the Nangong aristocratic family, it was already rare for him to possess a supreme-grade spirit weapon. The moment Nangongyu summoned his flying sword, Beiming Xue exerted strength in both arms. Xing! Blood splattered through the void. The golden core ancient remnant beast, the emerald blood leopard, was torn into 2 by Beiming Xue barehanded. Boom! The corpse of the emerald blood leopard fell to the ground, creating billowing dust. It was already dead, leaving only its massive body twitching unconsciously. Nangongyu had not expected this, and almost flipped over and fell. He had not imagined that Beiming Xue, a person whose golden core was crippled, would be so strong that she could rip an ancient remnant beast into 2. Even some paragons and monster incarnates of super sex in the cultivation world that specialized in body tempering were probably merely at this level. Go! Nangongyu hollered and tapped his finger gently. Swash! A sword beam flashed, and the supreme-grade flying sword arrived before Beiming Xue instantly. It was sharp and frighteningly fast. Beiming Xue did not move or even dodge. Nangongyu's eyes lit up. As long as the supreme-grade flying sword struck Beiming Xue, he believed that she would die even if she had 10 lives. All of a sudden, just as the flying sword was less than 3 inches away from Beiming Xue's cheek, she suddenly attacked. Without any unnecessary movements, she merely extended her fair and tender palm and grabbed the supreme-grade flying sword. When he saw that, Nangongyu could not help but burst into laughter. Haha, you're truly asking for trouble. A supreme-grade flying sword is not something that a body of flesh and blood can defend against. Furthermore, you're only a cripple. Suddenly, he could not continue. To his horror, he realized that he had completely lost control of that supreme-grade flying sword. The spirit energy on the sword was dispersed by Beiming Xue. What was even more terrifying was that Beiming Xue gripped the sharp blade of the sword barehanded. However, no blood flowed out from her palm. What was that? She received a supreme-grade spirit weapon barehanded but was completely unharmed? What the hell? Blood drained from Nangongyu's face as he looked at Beiming Xue with a bewildered expression. Suddenly, he realized that he could no longer read her. He no longer knew what sort of an existence he was facing. In fact, a thought flashed through his mind. Was Beiming Xue assimilated by some powerful cultivator? Right then, he swept his gaze and inadvertently caught sight of the green-robed man standing at the entrance of the house not far away. His heart skipped a beat. Could Beiming Xue's change have something to do with this man? If he was not wrong, that person was here a year and a half ago and had not left yet. However, Nangongyu could not tell the depths of the green-robed man. To him, this green-robed man was sickly and skinny. The latter looked like a down-and-out scholar that was of no threat at all. Snap! Just as Nangongyu's imagination was running wild, he heard a crisp sound and his heart skipped a beat. Instinctively, he looked over and was scared out of his wits. His supreme-grade flying sword was snapped in the middle by Beiming Xue's hands. What sort of power was that? Beiming Xue looked at Nan Gongyu expressionlessly. She threw the broken sword on the ground and strode over. Nan Gongyu retreated instinctively with a horrified expression. "What are you doing?" Nan Gongyu's voice was trembling, and he was flustered. "I gave you a chance," Beiming Xue replied indifferently. At that moment, Nan Gongyu recalled what Beiming Xue said to him earlier on. However, he scoffed at it, and did not take it to heart at that time. "Xue, He wanted to speak. Beiming Xue frowned in displeasure. Nan Gongyu's heart skipped a beat, and he changed his words hurriedly. "Fellow Taoist Beiming, I know my mistake now. As long as you let me live, I won't disturb you any more in the future." Beiming Xue remained silent and glared at Nan Gongyu coldly. Nan Gongyu took a deep breath and gradually composed himself. "Fellow Taoist Beiming, killing me won't benefit you at all. Although I'm only a collateral lineage of the Nangong aristocratic family, don't forget, my father is a nascent soul. He is extremely close with many direct descendants of the Nangong aristocratic family. If I die, you won't survive either. As for your younger brother, he will definitely be implicated as well." Beiming Xue lowered her gaze. Nan Gongyu's words struck her weakness. If she was alone, she could just kill Nan Gongyu and take revenge as she wished. However, she still had Beiming Ale. "Nan Gongyu, leave." A long time later, Beiming Xue said slowly, "I hope you can fulfill your promise and not come look for me again. I can tell you that the Beiming clan has no secrets, and you don't have to waste your time on me." Nan Gongyu heaved a sigh of relief and unknowingly broke out in cold sweat. Earlier on, his life was truly hanging by a thread. "Farewell!" He did not dare to linger any longer and turned to leave hurriedly, afraid that Beiming Xue might change her mind. Su Zimo stood at the side. He did not say anything the entire time, nor did he have any intentions of stepping in. He could not help but recall that night when he had no choice but to let Zhou Dingyan off. Similar to him, Beiming Xue had her difficulties. Chapter 1343, Dark and Windy Night. Chapter 1343, Dark and Windy Night. Bang! The door to the Nangong residence was kicked open and shattered into two. "Who's there?" A group of guards were alarmed and rushed over one after another, shouting. However, when they saw who it was, the guards were stunned and said instinctively, "Young master, you?" The person who barged in was none other than Nan Gongyu. At that moment, Nan Gongyu's expression was grim and his handsome face was filled with killing intent as he cursed repeatedly. The guards exchanged glances and naturally did not dare to stop him. Nan Gongyu passed through the corridor and headed straight for the backyard. Before long, he came to a room and took a deep breath before knocking. "Come in." A deep voice sounded from within the room. Nan Gongyu pushed the door open and entered. The room was extremely spacious and a cultivator sat in the middle. His long beard fell to his chest and he had a dignified gaze. This cultivator was the owner of this Nangong residence, Nangong Xing. In the south region, even a collateral lineage of the Nangong aristocratic family possessed an extremely noble status. As such, it's naturally easy for them to possess a mansion residence as such. Furthermore, Nangong Xing was a nascent soul. "What happened for you to lose your cool?" Nangong Xing asked indifferently. "Father, didn't you ask me to get close to Beiming Xue previously so that I can find an opportunity to find out the secret of the Beiming aristocratic family?" Nan Gongyu asked. "Yes." Nan Gongxing nodded. "However, that girl, Beiming Xue, offended Dong Fangji and has already lost her golden core, turning into a cripple. You can't get too close to her anymore." "That's right. Earlier on, I brought 3 servants with me to Beiming town because I wanted to teach Beiming Xue a lesson. However," Nan Gongyu paused for a moment and grit his teeth with a hateful expression. "She actually attacked and killed my 3 foundation establishment servants. Furthermore, she ripped my spirit beast mount, the Emerald Blood Leopard, into 2. Nan Gongxing frowned. Nan Gongyu continued, That's not all, Father. That bitch even snapped the supreme-grade flying sword you gave me into two bare-handed. This time round, even Nan Gongxing's expression changed slightly. She could break supreme-grade spirit weapons bare-handed? What sort of power was that? Although he was a nascent soul, he might not be able to do it with his body either. To think that she can release such strength despite her shattered golden core. Could it be? A glint flashed through Nan Gongxing's eyes as though he was in deep thought. Nan Gongyu asked. Father, what do you mean? It might be because of the secret guarded by the Beiming aristocratic family that caused Beiming Xue to rise again, Nan Gongxing deduced. Nan Gongyu could not believe it. I heard that Beiming Xue has been cultivating the martial Dao for the past year or so. Could it be because of it? Impossible! Nan Gongxing shook his head. There are countless people who cultivate the martial Dao. Which of them ever produced such power? Furthermore, it's only been slightly more than a year. Unless Dao Lord Desolate Martial is resurrected, who else can cultivate the martial Dao to such an extent? Fu. Nan Gongxing sneered. Right then, a green-robed figure appeared in Nan Gongyu's mind. Father, a strange person appeared at Beiming Xue's side a year ago. He doesn't look like he's from Beiming Town, nor is he a cultivator. He looks sickly. Yet he's still around when I went to Beiming Town this time round. I have a feeling that there's something strange about him. That's good as well. I'll make a trip to Beiming Town personally, Nan Gongxing said coldly. Whoever it is, strange or not, I'll kill them all. Father, be careful then, Nan Gongyu reminded worriedly. Nan Gongxing smiled gently. Don't worry, as a nascent soul, I don't believe that I can't take down a little girl. Wait at home for my news. I'll bring that girl back and let you punish her as you wish. Thank you, Father! Nan Gongyu was delighted. Beiming Town. Beiming Xue looked at the corpses in the courtyard for a long time in silence. There was a hint of worry on her face. A moment later, she turned around and looked at Su Zimo, saying softly, Mr. Su, why don't you head out and hide first? I'm worried that Nan Gongyu will make a comeback and you might be implicated. Since you're worried, why did you still let him go? Su Zimo asked. Beiming Xue smiled bitterly and shook her head. She had no choice. If Nan Gongyu was killed, Nan Gongyu's father would definitely descend in Beiming Town. At that time, it would be a disaster for her and Beiming Ao. There would at least be a chance if she let Nan Gongyu off. She was betting that Nan Gongyu would keep his promise and not look for her again. It's fine, you don't have to worry about me. Su Zimo smiled gently and returned to his room. He assumed a lotus position and closed his eyes to rest. The night was dark and the wind was strong. The entire courtyard was silent. All of a sudden, Su Zimo opened his eyes, as though a bolt of lightning flashed through the darkness. Some people are truly ignorant, he muttered softly. He could not use his essence spirit, but his vision, hearing and other five senses were still present. They were extremely sharp and could make out any activity thousands of kilometers away. In the room at the side, Beiming Xue was still resting with her eyes closed. She did not notice anything. However, Su Zimo had already noticed that in the forest hundreds of kilometers away from Beiming Town, 3 nascent souls were speeding over on their flying swords. He glanced at Beiming Xue. Beiming Xue had just formed her blood-chi golden core and was most likely going to die against a nascent soul. Furthermore, there were 3 of them. Su Zimo leaped down from the bed silently like a feather. Although he could not use his dermic powers or spirit consciousness, the power of this green lotus true body was not to be underestimated as well. He passed through the courtyard and with a single leap, strode out of Beiming Town without alarming anyone. Old Master, Beiming Town is about 250 kilometers away. Among the 3 nascent souls, apart from Nan Gongxing, the remaining 2 were servants of the Nan Gong aristocratic family, and had already grown to the nascent soul realm. An old servant said, Old Master, there's actually no need for you to follow us. It's just dealing with a little girl. There's no need for us to mobilize such a large force. We'll just take action and bring her back. No worries. Nan Gongxing said. I was in deep thought and decided to come out for a walk. Furthermore, I heard from you that Beiming Xue has some strange green-robed man with her. I'm going to take a look. Nan Gongxing and the other two rode on their flying swords and chatted. Eh? Right then, an old servant frowned and pointed into the distance. Why is a green-robed man standing there in the middle of the night? I wonder what he's doing out there. The moment the old servant said that, he realized something. Green-robed man? Nan Gongxing seemed to have sensed something and looked over. Far away, a green-robed man stood with a yellowish face. He looked sickly without any aura of spirit energy, like a mortal who had yet to recover from a serious illness. This green-robed man was exactly as Nan Gongyu had described. Chapter 1344 Killing Night. Chapter 1344 Killing Night. The distance between Nan Gongxing and the other two and the green-robed man decreased. The three of them fixed their gazes on the green-robed man and exuded a powerful might, as though they wanted to see through him. As for the green-robed man, his expression did not change much despite being glared at by the three nascent souls. He was not embarrassed in the slightest bit, and was extremely calm. Be careful, that person is indeed a little strange. Nan Gongxing sent a voice transmission secretly. Both old servants had lived for hundreds of years and were extremely cautious. I am Nan Gongxing. May I ask how I address you, fellow Taoist? Nan Gongxing reported the name of the Nangong aristocratic family right away. In the South region, the titles of the three aristocratic families were more useful than any Dao title. Unable to figure out the background of the green-robed man, Nan Gongxing did not act rashly and merely tested the waters. It doesn't matter who I am. The green-robed man shook his head. What are you doing here? An old servant asked in a deep voice. The green-robed man smiled gently. I'm waiting for you guys. Waiting for us? The old servant frowned. The green-robed man was Su Zimo, who had just arrived from Beiming town. Su Zimo raised his head slightly and looked at the sky. He retracted his smile and said indifferently, It's getting late. I'll send you guys on your way. After saying that, Nan Gongxing and the other two felt a cold intent envelop them. Swash! The three of them felt their vision blur, and their figures swayed as a tragic aura surged towards them. It was too fast. The Green Lotus true body did not use his full strength. However, the burst of his physique alone was something that Nan Gongxing's group of three could not handle. Among them, the two servants reacted slower. Nan Gongxing retreated immediately, but the two old servants were a step slower. Arriving before one of the old servants, Su Zimo slapped his palm on the latter's head and shattered the latter's skull, destroying his essence spirit. Before the old servant could say anything, his corpse fell from midair. You! Another old servant was enraged and slapped his storage bag. The moment he summoned his flying sword, Su Zimo had already arrived before him. Su Zimo turned to the next person right after killing one of them. The entire process was fluid as water without any pauses at all. Nobody expected that the frail scholar who seemed like he was fraught with illnesses earlier on would kill with a thunderous might in the blink of an eye. Su Zimo did not do anything else and extended his finger, tapping the old servant gently on the glabella. Although the old servant could see Su Zimo's finger extending, he could not dodge at all. A vicious glint flashed in his eyes. Since he was going to have to die either way, he might as well make his death a trade. Ignoring Su Zimo's incoming finger, the old servant channeled his spirit consciousness and summoned his flying sword, piercing towards Su Zimo's glabella as well. Poof! Su Zimo's finger reached the old servant's glabella first. Instantly, a bloodied hole appeared on the old servant's forehead as blood gushed out. His essence spirit was destroyed on the spot and he died. The old servant's flying sword had already arrived at Su Zimo's glabella. However, Su Zimo did not even blink and allowed the old servant's flying sword to stab at him. Clang! A crisp sound rang when the flying sword struck Su Zimo's face, as though metal was colliding. The flying sword fell. Nan Gongxing's eyelids twitched. That flying sword was a middle-grade perfected Lord Dermic weapon and was extremely sharp. But now, there were no marks on the skin of the green-robed cultivator, let alone injure him. What sort of a body is that? Impossible! Nagongxing's mind was in chaos, and countless questions surfaced. His cultivation realm, stamina, combat strength, blood qi and other aspects were much stronger than the two old servants. Even so, he did not dare to fight this green-robed cultivator right now. Nagongxing turned and fled without turning back. Boom! All of a sudden, a loud bang sounded behind him. The entire ground quaked. He turned back instinctively and his expression changed. Stomping on the ground with one foot, the green-robed cultivator created a huge pit and soared into the air at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, the green-robed cultivator arrived right behind him. Go! Nagongxing did not have time to think. His glabella shone and a black shadow burst forth, charging towards Su Zimo. He bit his tongue gently, and spat out a mouthful of essence blood that splashed onto the black shadow. The moment he spat out the essence blood, his expression withered. He could not care less any more. After obtaining Nagongxing's essence blood, the black shadow expanded against the wind and grew instantly, turning into a gigantic tripod that was more than half the height of a human. There were 4 dermic patterns etched on the tripod. It was a supreme-grade perfected Lord Dermic weapon. Among the 3 aristocratic families, the Nangong aristocratic family placed more emphasis on weapon and elixir refinement. The weapons of their clansmen were mostly tripods and furnaces. When the gigantic tripod slammed over, Su Zimo's expression was unchanged as he extended his palm and pushed towards it. Bang! The tripod collided against Su Zimo's palm. Su Zimo's figure was motionless. Although the tripod was a supreme-grade perfected Lord Dermic weapon, the power it released was almost negligible for Su Zimo. Su Zimo exerted his other palm and he exerted strength in both arms, hugging the gigantic tripod before him. The gigantic tripod was squashed by Su Zimo's hands at a visible speed. Thereafter, he rubbed his palms up and down. In the blink of an eye, the gigantic tripod that was around half the height of a human was squeezed into an iron ball by Su Zimo. That gigantic tripod was a supreme-grade perfected Lord Dermic weapon. However, the Green Lotus True Body was a Grade 6 creation Green Lotus that was augmented with many divine weapons. It was comparable to a Khanate Dao Lord Dermic weapon. There was a difference of 2 major cultivation realms between the two of them. Nagongxing's face turned pale and his scalp prickled. His legs went limp and he wanted to escape, but he could not move at all. Grinning at him, Su Zimo threw the gigantic iron ball in reverse. Whoosh! The wind howled. A black shadow descended. Bang! Nagongxing could not react in time and was struck heavily on the chest by the gigantic iron ball. Instantly, his tendons and bones were shattered and his organs were smashed. His body was already dead. Shoo! A beam of light escaped from the top of Nagongxing's head. His essence spirit left his body. Under normal circumstances, the essence spirits of nascent souls were extremely fragile. Once they leave their bodies, it would be difficult for them to survive even without any danger. However, at that moment, Nagongxing no longer had a way out. The moment his essence spirit left, he discovered a shadow shrouding over. His essence spirit had already fallen into Su Zimo's palm. The green-robed man with the yellowed cheeks looked at him calmly and smirked with a fake smile that was filled with mockery. Who exactly are you? Nagongxing's essence spirit roared with a trembling voice. My name is Su Zimo. Su Zimo smiled gently. Nagongxing was stunned. That was an extremely foreign name that he had never heard before. Thereafter, the green-robed man continued. My Dao title is Desolate Marshal. Nagongxing's eyes gradually widened with endless shock that filled every single inch of his essence spirit. Immediately after, cracks appeared on Nagongxing's essence spirit, and his light dimmed. His life force drained and was destroyed instantly. The essence spirits of nascent souls were extremely weak to begin with. Nagongxing died from the shock of hearing the words Desolate Marshal. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.